Chapter 2, Huang Xian. During the summer vacation I visited my second uncle's house in the countryside. The long-distance bus broke down midway, taking over 2 hours to repair. By the time I stood before my second uncle's door, it was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. In rural areas, people tend to retire early primarily due to the lack of decent entertainment activities. If one wishes to sing karaoke, one must journey 5 or 6 miles to the county town, where singing rooms are available. Therefore, at this hour in the countryside, the only individuals still awake are typically those engrossed in gambling, playing mahjong or poker throughout the night. However, this is generally confined to the off-season for farming. During the busy season, no one plays, as they are utterly exhausted from laboring in the fields all day. Even if one were to win, they would hardly possess the energy to engage in games. Although this period was not considered the peak of farming activity, it certainly did not afford the leisure of winter. Under normal circumstances, my second uncle's household would be fast asleep by this hour. Yet tonight, I noticed that the 3 large tile-roofed rooms were brightly lit, with shadows flitting about, as if something unusual were afoot. The large yellow dog in the yard was barking furiously, its chain clanking noisily. What on earth could be happening? I pondered, raising my voice to call out, "Second uncle, second uncle, open the door." The commotion inside must have been quite significant, for I shouted for over 10 minutes before my second aunt came rushing out to let me in. Breathless. "Oh my, is that you, my eldest nephew? Why didn't you call beforehand? We could have sent your second uncle to pick you up. What brings you here on foot?" she exclaimed, her energy as vibrant as ever. "As my mother would say, your second aunt would walk 2 miles just to see you." "What do you mean I walked here? I came by a ban, a type of rural transport, akin to a human-powered tricycle with 2 cushions." "Didn't I? That's why I was calling you," I complained, my throat slightly hoarse from shouting. "Come in quickly, you're drenched in sweat. Let us get you inside to wash up." "Well, you see, your second uncle caught a large yellow weasel making quite the noise, and the dog was barking along. Inside, it was so noisy that I couldn't hear anything at all. If I hadn't stepped outside to fetch water from the well, I wouldn't have heard a thing," she explained, pulling me into the house. Upon entering, I found my second uncle squatting beside the iron cage that was once used for the dog. He looked up, beaming at my arrival, and said, "Yifan, you've arrived. Have you eaten yet? Let your aunt prepare a couple of dishes for you. Let us have a drink, shall we?" "I'm not drinking." "Where's the weasel?" I inquired, knowing my second uncle enjoyed sharing a drink with me, especially so he could listen to my tales of city life, often praising me for being a city child with a broader perspective. However, my attention is now entirely focused on the weasel. "Very well, I shall refrain from drinking. Let your aunt prepare something for you to eat. Look, there it is in the cage. Keep your distance. It nearly bit me when I caught it just now. This little creature is remarkably quick." My second uncle saw my face almost pressed against the cage and promptly warned me, "Inside the cage is a weasel over a foot long with round, glistening eyes and a long white stripe of fur extending down to the tip of its tail. Its fur is sleek and shiny, truly magnificent. It is the first time in my life I have encountered a live yellow weasel." Oddly enough, after I entered the house, this weasel ceased its cries. Outside, I could still faintly hear its squeaks. "Why has it stopped making noise?" I curiously inquired of my second uncle. He too found it peculiar. "Indeed. Why is it silent?" "You have no idea. Its earlier cries gave me quite a headache. It's rather nice that it has stopped. That incessant noise was quite bothersome." "Second uncle, how do you intend to deal with it?" I asked. I suggested killing it, but your aunt forbids it, claiming it is an evil creature. I am at a loss about what to do. "If we release it, our chickens will be insufficient to satisfy its appetite," replied my second uncle. "I belong to the kind of person who is carefree. My mother often says I must be born under the sign of the pig, as I can fall asleep the moment my head hits the pillow and rarely dream. Yet tonight, I did dream. In my dream, I stood in front of the chicken coop at my second uncle's house, and a weasel identical to the one in the cage was perched atop a large rooster, gripping its neck with its forepaws. I found it amusing as the rooster flapped its wings desperately. 2 entirely different species engaged in a tussle, akin to a pair of ruffians brawling. I was smiling foolishly when the weasel suddenly ceased its movements and turned to look at me. The weasel, a young fellow, swaggered over to me, grinning, and said, "I am not just any creature. I am Huang Sanqing from Max Hill, you know. Yes, that's the one your second uncle caught. It's me." Observing the boastful Huang Sanqing before me, I inexplicably felt a tinge of amusement. His words suggested he took pride in being captured by my second uncle, even introducing himself. "What is this? Am I on a reality show? What do you want?" The rigidity coursing through me left me quite uncomfortable. Ideally, I should approach your second uncle, but his demeanor is rather intimidating, and communicating with him is quite unpleasant. Hence, I sought you out, considering it a twist of fate. Huang Sanqing stared at me with wide eyes and said, seeking me, "For what purpose is this fellow plotting against me?" Yet I had not done anything to provoke him, merely stealing a glance. Shouldn't warrant such hostility? Should it? "What do you want?" "I have been cultivating in the mountains for over 200 years. This time, I descended to reconnect with old friends. I initially intended to catch a chicken as a token of our reunion. Moreover, I am not entirely empty-handed. I buried 2 pieces of gold in your second uncle's vegetable garden. It is truly challenging to be a good person. You must persuade your second uncle to release me, and we shall consider the matter settled. Otherwise, not only will the gold be lost, but my old friend will not let your second uncle off lightly. If I am not released, it matters little. A mere physical form is easily replaced. However, your second uncle's household should not expect to enjoy peaceful days henceforth. With that, Huang Sanqing swayed and vanished from sight. Indeed, the situation was quite alarming for my uncle. That very afternoon, he took the chicken to the place where the weasel had been released. Later, he confided in me that he understood the reason for his fall. Curious, I inquired further, to which he revealed that on that day, while setting the weasel free, he foolishly struck it on the head beforehand. I couldn't help but burst into laughter, yet the incident lingered in my mind, leaving me with a sense of unease. Could there truly be such strange and supernatural entities? Chapter 3, The Haunting, Part 1. After the summer break, I recounted my experiences at my uncle's house to my dormitory mates, but they unanimously dismissed my tales as mere nonsense. This left me rather disheartened. It felt akin to purchasing an expensive pair of designer pants only to have friends dismiss them as imitation. Fortunately, not everyone was a skeptic. My girlfriend from the foreign languages department, Su Jing, was genuinely intrigued. She listened with great enthusiasm and bombarded me with questions about the details, such as whether the weasel had single or double eyelids and the length of its tail. I noticed her curiosity was quite intense. I asked her if she was afraid, and Su Jing smirked and replied that she came from a rural background where stories like mine were plentiful. See, contrary to the stereotype that girls are timid and fearful of ghosts or deities, Su Jing was unafraid, a true embodiment of a strong woman. Typically, Friday afternoons are devoid of classes, so I called Su Jing to invite her to dine at the Wind, Flower, Snow, and Moon restaurant. Although labeled as a restaurant, it was essentially a more upscale cafeteria within the university. The ambience was charming, reminiscent of the quaint eateries one might encounter in Dali or Lijiang, which is why couples in love often frequent such places. You might wonder why they only go when in love. Well, it's because men in the throes of romance are inclined to splurge on their girlfriends in such romantic settings. The prices are exorbitant, and after a while, such extravagance seems unnecessary. Besides, as college students without a steady income, one cannot always indulge in lavish meals while tightening their belts for the rest of the month. That day, I ordered an extensive array of dishes along with 2 bottles of beer, prompting Su Jing to tease me once again for my extravagant choices. She chided me for ordering 4 dishes regardless of hunger, asserting that wastefulness is a grave sin. I explained to her that this approach ensured a balanced diet, as one never knows which nutrients their body may lack. Su Jing retorted, "You lack nothing." I chuckled in agreement, only for her to add, "Except common sense." Clearly, my girlfriend knows me well, and I found it amusing. Later, as the dormitory lights dimmed, I recalled the incident of someone jumping from Su Jing's dormitory and took out my phone to message her. I typed, "Darling, are you asleep?" Don't ask why I chose to text instead of sending a voice message. Only those with low emotional intelligence resort to that. Sending a voice note so late would disturb other students' rest, especially since the guys in my dorm were still single. If I were to send a voice message, it would undoubtedly be a blatant display of my relationship, inviting criticism. Su Jing replied, "Not yet. I'm listening to an audiobook. Why haven't you gone to bed?" I responded, "There was an incident at your place today, and I was worried you might be scared." I confess I am somewhat envious. But who wouldn't feel a twinge of heartache for their girlfriend? Su Jing, not at all. You should see who my girlfriend is. By the way, do you know who jumped today? Me. Who? Since Su Jing posed this question, I knew the individual involved was someone I must have encountered, even if only briefly. Su Jing, it's Li Xiaoyu from the dorm next door. I heard she got involved with a man from the streets, and after more than a year, she discovered he was already married. She is pregnant and went to confront him, but he refused to see her, and his wife berated her. Unable to cope, she jumped. Her mother came today, and she cried her heart out in the dorm. Li Xiaoyu. I repeated her name to myself a couple of times, and it dawned on me, she was quite a demure girl. How could such a tragedy befall her? It seems one cannot solely judge by appearances. Me. So it was her. I truly had no idea. Aren't you all frightened? Su Jing, I'm alright, but Fangfang and Luli are terrified. They are clamoring to speak with the teacher about changing dorms tomorrow. Me. Well, you should definitely accompany them for the change. Su Jing, understood. Me. Then make sure to rest early. Su Jing, good night. Kisses. Me. That kisses was a voice message sent from beneath the covers. Interpret it as you will. I glanced at the clock. It was 10:30. My eyelids began to grow heavy, and before I knew it, I had fallen asleep. As soon as I drifted off, I found myself dreaming. The scene unfolded outside Su Jing's dormitory, where a middle-aged woman was burning paper, although I had never seen Li Xiaoyu's mother. In the dream, I knew instinctively that this was indeed her mother. The flickering flames cast a haunting light on the dorm's exterior walls, creating an eerie atmosphere in the dead of night. Logically, I was not well acquainted with Li Xiaoyu. Our relationship was merely one of nodding acquaintances. The reason for my dream must be that I had subconsciously been unsettled during the day. Otherwise, why would I dream of her mother burning paper? It is often said that one's thoughts during the day manifest in dreams at night. I certainly wouldn't be longing for Li Xiaoyu. If I were to dream, it would likely be of Su Jing. A gust of wind swept by, scattering the embers from the burning paper, and I genuinely worried that I might inadvertently ignite the dorm. Suddenly, I realized I was aware that I was dreaming. This was unprecedented. I had previously stated that individuals in dreams are oblivious to their dream state. As I pondered this, I noticed a few figures approaching from a distance. And as they drew nearer, I recognized them as several older gentlemen from the security office. Li Xiaoyu, your death has nothing to do with me. Seek retribution from that man, not me, even in a dream. The proximity of a ghost filled me with uncontrollable anxiety. Li Xiaoyu, transformed into a specter, laughed in a way that sent chills down my spine. Was that truly the laugh of a ghost? Why was it so unsettling? Sister, could you refrain from laughing in such a terrifying manner? Summoning my courage, I said to Li Xiaoyu, what can you possibly do to me in my dream? Dream? Is this truly a dream? Li Xiaoyu furrowed her brow, and her expression turned bewildered. Seizing the moment, I took several steps back, increasing the distance between us. Fortunately, this time Li Xiaoyu did not follow, allowing me to breathe a sigh of relief. No, this is not a dream. I am dead. Suddenly Li Xiaoyu seemed to have an epiphany, her emotions surging as she shouted, her complexion shifting from pale to a ghastly hue. Her long hair billowed around her as both hands extended towards me. Hovering at chest height, damn it, Li Xiaoyu has gone mad. Even if I were an imbecile, I have seen enough horror films to recognize this posture as one of impending attack. At that moment, a singular thought raced through my mind. Run! I turned and fled, shouting, damn it, debts have their owners. Why the hell are you chasing me? The only response was the increasingly ominous sound of her chilling laughter. Perhaps in my haste, my legs faltered, and I stumbled over a thicket. As I turned to look back, Li Xiaoyu was already within arm's reach. I thought to myself, this is it. I am about to be strangled to death by Li Xiaoyu in this dream. Just as I was on the brink of surrendering, a large foot clad in polished leather shoes struck Li Xiaoyu squarely in the face, sending her careening away with a cry. Then, a young man in a yellow and white striped shirt appeared in the spot where Li Xiaoyu had stood. He looked somewhat familiar, but I couldn't quite place him. The young man, observing the airborne Li Xiaoyu, wore a playful expression and said, you unfortunate soul, who do you think you can mess with? Stay away from him from now on. As soon as he spoke, I recognized him. It was Huang Sanqing. How on earth did he end up here? Li Xiaoyu glared at Huang Sanqing with disdain, asking, who are you to meddle in the affairs of the underworld? Aren't you afraid of retribution? Heh, I am Huang Sanqing with a lineage from Axe Mountain. Other people's matters are none of my concern. But this, lads, is my business. What are you going to do about it? Not satisfied? Shall we settle it with a duel? Huang Sanqing said with his signature rogue demeanor. I couldn't help but think. The last time I dreamt of Huang Sanqing, he introduced himself in precisely this manner. Is Axe Mountain really that impressive? It's not like it's the Axe Gang of Li Xiaoyu, covering her face where Huang Sanqing had kicked her, begrudgingly said to me, I didn't expect you to have a protector like Huang. Next time, you won't be so lucky. With that, she transformed into a wisp of green smoke, dissipating into the ether. I was utterly bewildered. What on earth was happening? Why was she fixated on me? I looked at Huang Sanqing, who had just saved me, and found the entire situation absurd. A ghost with no connection to me was trying to harm me, while a weasel with only a slight connection came to my rescue. Thank you, Brother Huang, I said, realizing I ought to be polite after he had just chased away a female ghost. No problem. You and I are fated. Brother Huang, will be your guardian spirit. I can accumulate merit, and you will be safe. This is mutual assistance, Huang Sanqing replied with a grin. Guardian spirit? Are you for real? I still believed this was an utterly ridiculous dream. Upon hearing my skepticism, Huang Sanqing grew agitated. Hey, kid, don't be so ungrateful so quickly. I just saved you, and you turn around and deny it. I hurried to clarify, no, Brother Huang, I didn't mean it that way. I just think. Am I still dreaming? You, having been enchanted by someone, remain foolishly oblivious as if trapped in a dream. Had it not been for the timely appearance of your esteemed Brother Huang today, I dare say you would have been left in a state akin to that of a vegetable by tomorrow. The fact that you even harbor doubts about me, your Brother Huang, is truly disheartening, he remarked with a frown. Brother Huang, I assure you, I meant no such thing. I am profoundly grateful for your intervention. That kick of yours was undeniably executed with finesse, showcasing a level of skill that is simply unmatched. Perhaps it is due to the favorable impressions you have left on me during these past encounters that I now find you not only unthreatening but rather endearing. Hence I hastily sought to flatter him. I merely inquired as to why Li Xiaoyu sought to ensnare my soul. As I rarely interact with her, this, indeed, feels like an undeserved calamity and remains a perplexing mystery to me. Huang Tianqing chuckled and asked, is that all? I nodded in affirmation. Chapter 4, Haunting, Part 2. Su Jing, her voice laced with urgency, implored me. Words alone cannot convey the gravity of the situation. You must come at once. Upon donning my attire and arriving at Su Jing's dormitory, I was promptly halted by the dormitory supervisor, who insisted I could not enter. I explained that a young lady from my girlfriend's dorm had encountered a mishap and I needed to check on her. The supervisor inquired if I was referring to the one from room 304, the deranged one. I was unsure of her mental state, yet I confirmed that room 304 indeed belonged to Su Jing. She then informed me that my entry was unnecessary as the individual had already been taken to the hospital. Taken aback, I thought to myself, how could Su Jing not have informed me that the person had been taken away? I quickly retrieved my phone and called Su Jing, who took several rings before answering. She informed me that Luli had been transported to the 2nd Municipal Hospital and instructed me to take a taxi there myself. As I hurried to the roadside to hail a cab, I pressed Su Jing for details about the incident. She recounted the events of the evening, after parting ways with me earlier that day. She had gone shopping with Fong Fong and returned after 8 p.m. Upon entering the dormitory, they found an array of bedding and clothing strewn across the floor, with Luli standing eerily by the window. Su Jing and Fong Fong initially assumed an intruder had entered, and while they tidied up, they questioned Luli about the situation. Luli, however, paid them no mind. As Su Jing called out to her again, a sense of foreboding set in as they realized something was amiss. Luli had begun to climb up onto the windowsill. Su Jing and Fong Fong rushed over to restrain her. Yet Luli summoned an inexplicable strength, and the two of them failed to hold her back. In desperation, they called for assistance. Hearing the commotion, students from nearby dormitories rushed over, and it took several individuals to finally subdue her. During this chaos, Su Jing managed to calm me, believing this incident was somehow linked to Li Xiaoyu's leap from the building. Initially, they thought that bringing Luli down would resolve the matter. Yet she suddenly went into a frenzy, flailing her limbs and biting anyone within reach, injuring several classmates in the process. Ultimately, they had no choice but to call for emergency services, which is how she was taken to the hospital. Upon listening to Su Jing recount the sequence of events, I made my way to the hospital. Upon my arrival, I was taken aback to find a cluster of 7 or 8 young women gathered in the corridor. Each adorned in a myriad of attire, some were even clad in nothing more than flimsy nightgowns, which stirred my senses in a rather overwhelming manner had it not been for Su Jing's persistent glances of admonition. I might have found myself utterly lost amidst this sea of exposed flesh. I inquired of Su Jing regarding Luli's condition, to which she replied that Luli had fainted as soon as the ambulance arrived, and she was currently undergoing emergency treatment. Su Jing mentioned that her mother had been notified, but it was likely she would not arrive until the following morning. Before long, a doctor emerged, and we hurriedly approached to inquire about the situation. The doctor asked if any family members were present, and we informed him that her mother had been contacted, although she would not be able to arrive immediately. We sought clarification on Luli's condition, and the doctor explained that various tests had been conducted, revealing no apparent issues, but further examinations were necessary as she had yet to regain consciousness. He recommended that we arrange for her admission to the hospital while the comprehensive assessments continued. The on-duty teacher stepped in to cover the hospitalization expenses. The doctor instructed us to take turns caring for Luli and to contact her parents upon their arrival before departing. Ultimately, it was decided that Su Jing and I would remain behind, primarily because I was the only male present. However, I felt somewhat uncomfortable attending to the girls alone, and Su Jing was not entirely at ease leaving me there without her supervision. Thus she resolved to stay with me to look after Luli, which is quite characteristic of women. The next morning, I awoke around 11 o'clock. Su Jing and I had a light meal before purchasing lunch for herself and her mother. Then we hurried to the hospital. Upon entering the ward, we found Luli's mother in tears. We approached her to inquire if the doctor had come by earlier. She informed us that he had, and several additional tests had been conducted, all of which returned normal results. Yet, the question lingered, why had Luli not awakened? As she spoke, her emotions began to swell again, and I quickly offered my reassurance, saying, "Auntie, please do not worry. We must trust the hospital. Since no issues have been identified, it suggests that there is no grave concern. Perhaps she will recover by evening." I pondered whether to discuss the matter concerning Li Xiaoyu. Yet I hesitated, uncertain of how to broach the topic. I feared that my words might inadvertently lead to my own hospitalization. In attempting to gauge Luli's mother's thoughts, I cautiously suggested, "Auntie, do you think the fact that the tests revealed no issues could imply that there might be another cause?" Upon hearing this, Luli hastily tugged at my sleeve, signaling me to refrain from speaking frivolously. Su Jing's subtle gestures did not escape Luli's mother's notice, prompting her to address me directly. "You must be Zhou Yifan, right? I recognize you. There's something you are withholding from me." Realizing the misunderstanding, I quickly clarified, "No, Auntie, there's nothing I am concealing from you." I explained that I had heard from elders at home that if someone were afflicted by some external influence, it could manifest in similar symptoms. Luli's mother perked up at this, asking, "Then what could have caused Luli's condition?" I could only manage a wry smile, pondering how I could possibly know the answer. "Auntie, I'm afraid I truly do not know. However, since the hospital has found no issues, perhaps we should explore that possibility. If it turns out she was indeed affected by something, we wouldn't want to delay her recovery, would we?" As I spoke, my voice grew increasingly softer, for it was rather absurd for a university student to utter such words. Luli's mother remained silent, leaving me uncertain if she was contemplating the matters I had mentioned. I asked Su Jing to help Luli with her face, and the two of us stepped outside. Before we left, Luli's mother requested our phone numbers, stating that she might trouble us if any issues arose. We assured her there was no need for formalities. In the afternoon, Su Jing intended to go shopping with Fong Fong, while I decided to join my dorm mate, the third in our group. For a game of billiards. As evening approached, I received a phone call from Luli's mother, urging me to visit the hospital that night. I inquired if Luli had regained consciousness, to which she replied that it was regarding a matter I had discussed with her earlier that morning. She had found someone and wanted me to come and take a look. I did not fully comprehend the situation, but I felt a pang of sympathy for Luli's mother, at her age. Bearing such burdens was truly disheartening. Without further thought, I made my way to the hospital. Upon entering Luli's ward, I immediately sensed something was amiss, as the air was thick with the scent of sandalwood. Inside, besides Luli and her mother, stood a young man clad in a white linen Chinese-style shirt, his hair fashioned into a bun. He appeared quite spirited, yet his attire struck me as discomforting, leaving me with an unsettling feeling. Chapter 5, Haunting, Part 2. At Chang Geng's request, we arrived promptly at Su Jing's dormitory building at 11:30 p.m. The main entrance was already locked. I inquired why Chang Geng could not have arrived earlier, to which he explained that the hour of the midnight was when the yin energy was at its most potent, facilitating the movement of spirits. Arriving too early would render our efforts futile. Chang Geng retrieved a piece of yellow paper from his bag and began to scribble haphazardly upon it, then handed it to me, instructing me to affix it to my forehead. I took the paper and examined it, finding it blank, and questioned its purpose. Chang Geng informed me that this was a substitute talisman upon which he had inscribed Luli's birth details using his mystical arts. He explained that attaching this talisman to my person would cause Li Xiaoyu's spirit to mistake me for Luli, thus enticing her to reveal herself. I let out an involuntary "oh" and quickly realized the implications. I tossed the talisman away, sensing that Chang Geng's insistence on my involvement was suspicious. I had assumed he would perform a simple ritual, perhaps burning some paper. Little did I know he intended to engage in a physical confrontation with a spirit. Was he truly using me as bait? I had encountered Li Xiaoyu's spirit in a dream where I had been thoroughly frightened. If this were to transpire in reality, I might well find myself facing the king of hell. No, I was not ready to meet my end just yet. Chang Geng retrieved the talisman, grinning as he remarked, "What's the matter? Are you afraid?" I hesitated, torn between the truth of my fear and the realization that, compared to my life, being used as bait seemed a preferable option. Suddenly, Chang Geng shouted, startling me. "I said here, who's coming?" I nervously hid behind him, only to see Chang Geng produce a peachwood sword from somewhere. Following his gaze, I turned to look, and my spirit nearly fled my body. There, floating by the eastern wall of the dormitory, was a figure, not a person, but rather a ghost, hovering above the ground. From its attire, it was unmistakably Li Xiaoyu's spirit, but what had happened to its face? Her face was drenched in blood, her once flowing hair now matted and sullied, clumped together in disarray. Her eyes appeared as though they might pop from their sockets. Glistening ominously, Chang Geng, wielding a sword in his right hand, swiftly retrieved a talisman from his bag with his left, affixing it to the sword's tip. With a flourish of his blade, he directed it towards Li Xiaoyu, demanding, "Impudent spirit, instead of reflecting upon your transgressions, you dare to disturb the living. Today, I shall act as heaven's envoy and cast you into the depths of the 18 layers of hell, where you shall never rise again." Li Xiaoyu remained silent, her expression rigid as she floated towards us. I anxiously gripped the fabric of Chang Geng's attire. She halted 3 meters away from us, and without parting her lips, her voice echoed chillingly, "Do you comprehend the depths of my suffering? All I desire is to quell my resentment and report to the underworld. Why do you impede me? And you?" Li Xiaoyu suddenly raised her voice. "Last time, I spared you due to your protection from the Huang Xian. This time, with a Taoist by your side, I shall ensure your demise, even if it costs me my very soul." The latter part of her statement was evidently directed at me, causing my heart to constrict. This misunderstanding was dire. I longed to rush forth and clarify that this Taoist was not of my choosing, that I was being coerced, that I was wronged. "Scoundrel, meet your end!" Chang Geng bellowed. The peachwood sword glimmered with golden light as it lunged towards Li Xiaoyu's spectral throat. Just as the blade was about to pierce her, her spirit convulsed violently, akin to a television losing its signal, then shattered into fragments and vanished. "Is she dead?" I inquired of Chang Geng. He did not address my question, instead instructing me to step aside, claiming my grip was hindering his performance. Realizing this meant she was still alive, I quickly scanned my surroundings, wary of a potential ambush. Chang Geng stowed the wooden sword in his bag and drew forth a red string from his waist. With deft movements, he fashioned it into a complex shape. Murmuring, "Eyes bright as lightning, grant me divine powers, illuminate the 8 directions, pursue souls and spirits, Taishan Lao Jun, hasten as the law commands." As Chang Geng spoke, the red string began to radiate a crimson light, intensifying and twisting incessantly. With a decisive push, he propelled it forward, creating a massive circle of red light, spanning over 10 meters in diameter, which surged ahead. A piercing scream pierced the air as the red light coiled tightly, Revealing Li Xiaoyu's form, struggling within, where the red string made contact with Li Xiaoyu's skin, it emitted a hissing sound, and dark liquid seeped from her, churning my stomach in revulsion. Chang Geng brandished the wooden sword, advancing toward Li Xiaoyu's spirit, proclaiming, "The cycle of cause and effect is inexorable. The calamity you face is the consequence of your past deeds. You refuse to repent and continue to harm others. When will you cease to be shackled by your karmic burdens?" Seeing Li Xiaoyu restrained emboldened me, and I echoed Chang Geng's sentiments. "Indeed, I bear no grudge against you. Why do you seek to harm me?" Li Xiaoyu, upon hearing my voice, raised her head in agony and spoke to me with a tone brimming with hatred. "Zhou Yifan, this is far from over." I was taken aback, pondering the depths of animosity that Li Xiaoyu seemed to harbor against me. I patted Chang Geng on the shoulder, signaling him to swiftly resolve the matter. With a sigh, Chang Geng produced a paper talisman and affixed it to his wooden sword, which then shimmered with a golden light. Just as Chang Geng's wooden sword was poised against Li Xiaoyu's chest, a piercing cry echoed from afar. "You dare harm my subordinate, reveal your name." Chang Geng halted his actions, turning towards the source of the voice, when suddenly a black beam of light shot through the air like a dagger. "Not good, she has accomplices," Chang Geng shouted, discarding the wooden sword and lunging towards me. However, the speed of the black light was too swift. It struck directly at my crown just as Chang Geng was but a step away. A wave of heaviness washed over me, and Chang Geng hurriedly formed hand seals, murmuring incantations I could not discern. His entire being radiated a myriad of golden lights, enveloping the sky in a brilliant hue. Before collapsing, I weakly uttered, "If you have a powerful move, why not use it sooner?" With that, darkness enveloped my vision. It felt as though it happened in an instant. I closed my eyes and opened them again, only to find myself in an unfamiliar place. The sky was shrouded in gray, and I stood upon a dusty road. A realization struck me. This was the afterlife. Having read my fair share of supernatural tales, it was evident that I found myself on the path to the Yellow Springs. My demise seemed rather casual. Who was my killer? I had no clue. What was the weapon used? I couldn't say. I contemplated whether to wait for Chang Geng the Taoist, but he could not even protect a living soul. However, given the magnitude of the last spell he cast, he likely remained unharmed. Oh well, since I was here, I would accept my fate. Such as life, death befalls all, and those who do not perish endure for eternity. Clearly, I had met my end, yet I could not ascertain whether the bird had soared to the heavens. Nevertheless, this must be the underworld. I surveyed the road ahead and behind, uncertain where it led. Both sides seemed endless. Occasionally, a few figures appeared by my side, each more grotesque than the last, some with severed limbs, others entirely deflated, as though crushed under a heavy truck. I greeted them, but they paid me no heed, trudging forward like mindless drones. Frowning, I followed suit, reflecting on the irony of my situation. In life, I had feared death and the supernatural. Now that I was dead, it seemed trivial observing the spirits around me. I mused on the absurdity of it all. I had initially accompanied the Taoist to capture ghosts, yet here I was, transformed into one myself. Just as I was lost in these thoughts, I noticed a figure had appeared beside me, walking in silence. I turned to look, and upon recognizing the person's face, tears streamed down my cheeks. It was none other than Huang Sanqing, the one who had appeared in my dreams twice before. I embraced Huang Sanqing tightly, a torrent of grievances flooding my heart, and through choked sobs I said, "Brother Huang, I died unjustly." Chapter 6. The gentle breeze ghost immortal Huang Sanqing brusquely pushed me away, his face contorted with disdain as he admonished, "Stop dragging your Huanggu into your troubles. You claim to be busy every day, yet the moment I take my eyes off you, you find yourself in this predicament. It is utterly disheartening. Brother Huang, I am wronged. I did not bring this upon myself. I was harmed by others," I protested, my voice tinged with indignation. "Harmed by others? Pray tell, what does that girl's possession have to do with you? You seem to have the same penchant for meddling as in your previous life." Huang Sanqing replied, seemingly aware that he had misspoken, swiftly shifting the topic. "We need to make haste. Your physical form is currently occupied by my brother. If we linger too long, we shall attract suspicion." I contemplated his words, sensing something amiss. The mention of my past life had been too fortuitous, and I pressed him for clarification. "What do you mean? Who was I in my previous life?" Huang Sanqing appeared somewhat flustered. "Who you were is of no concern. How could your Huanggu possibly harm you? Reflect upon your conscience. Has your Huanggu ever deceived you?" he asserted with righteous fervor. I considered his words. Although we had encountered each other in dreams on 2 occasions, he had never betrayed me. In fact, had it not been for Huang Sanqing's intervention during our last dream, I might have been delivered here by Li Xiaoyu days ago. Adopting a guileless expression, I remarked, "Indeed, Huanggu, your chivalry is commendable. Were it not for your timely intervention in the dream, I would have reported here much sooner." Huang Sanqing, exasperated, seized my arm and began to run in the opposite direction of the ghostly movement. He inquired, "Do you know where this place is? Is this where you came to report?" "What place?" "This is none other than the road to the Yellow Springs. I am well aware, having encountered it in countless supernatural tales," I replied, a hint of pride in my voice. "Bah, nonsense," Huang Sanqing retorted, nearly spitting as he exclaimed, "You think you know? You know nothing. This is the road to the Yellow Springs. Do you genuinely believe you have died?" I felt a twinge of annoyance at his words. Was it not obvious? If I were not dead, how would I find myself here? Brother Huang, there is no need to comfort me, if this is not the road to the Yellow Springs. Then whose garden could it possibly be? I countered. You have indeed guessed correctly. It is, in fact, someone else's garden. Huang Sanqing replied. Really, a garden? Whose garden is this? It is so vast. I feigned astonishment, knowing he was jesting. Ah, truly one cannot be resurrected if they are foolish. This is not the Yellow Springs as you envision. Rather, it is the soul-collecting prison within the 16 lesser hells of the 9th king of the Tenyama. It is a place dedicated to the collection of living souls. The old ghost dares not directly take your life, for that would violate celestial laws and bear consequences he cannot shoulder. Thus, he has confined your spirit here, ostensibly preserving your life. In essence, you are akin to what you call a vegetable person. However, this old ghost possesses some cunning. Had I not returned in time, locating you would have indeed proven quite troublesome. Upon hearing Huang Sanqing's explanation, I felt a surge of excitement and grasped his arm, exclaiming, Brother Huang, are you suggesting that I am not dead? Huang Sanqing revealed his signature expression, grinning widely as he said to me. With your brother Huang here, your life shall be guaranteed. I laughed in return, reflecting on how swiftly the ups and downs of life unfold, allowing me to experience the true essence of life and death. By the way, brother Huang, how are Chang Geng and the others? I inquired. Huang Sanqing informed me that he was unharmed. After I was ambushed, Chang Geng indeed unleashed a powerful move, leaving Li Xiaoyu utterly disoriented. While the one who plotted against me remained conspicuously absent. What feels amiss? I hastily asked. Huang Sanqing turned, narrowing his eyes as he gazed upon the statue of King Pingdang. Moments later, I observed the visage of the statue momentarily blur, only to be replaced by a face adorned with jagged fangs, smiling menacingly at Huang Sanqing. My heart tightened. Yes, that expression was unmistakable, and I initially thought I had merely imagined it. You young ones, do you think the underworld is a place you can enter and exit at will? The statue emitted a gravelly voice, crackling as if my very teeth were aching in response. As the statue spoke, an invisible pressure bore down upon me, making each breath feel laborious. Huang Sanqing, unfazed, retorted, I have come, and I shall leave shortly. What do you intend to do about it? What can you do to me? King Pingdang Lu laughed heartily at me. Those who come here are all souls. Which of them has passed away peacefully? Since you have arrived, it is fated, a consequence of the eternal cycle. Do not speak of betrayal or innocence. This fellow was utterly unreasonable. Before I could voice my thoughts, Huang Sanqing interrupted, casting a disdainful glance at King Pingdang Lu as he said, Do you think you can deceive Zhou Yifan and fool your grandpa Wang? 300 years ago, the Buddha attained nirvana, and the age of decadence has begun. In all the realms, amidst countless deities, is there any true master still reigning besides Xitigarbha? Goodness, if what Huang Sanqing says holds true, does that mean the King Pingdang before us is a counterfeit? How audacious! The statue's expression visibly twitched, evidently struck by Huang Sanqing's words. It appeared this fellow was indeed an impostor. Oh, so you are also from that era? Then I shall no longer play with you, with that old immortal Chang Geng protecting you in the mortal realm. Now that you both have stepped onto my territory, do not expect to leave. Upon finishing his words, the statue of King Pingdang erupted in a cloud of black mist, from which emerged a figure clad in a long, hooded black robe, a thin veil of mist swirling around their face, obscuring their expression. Huang Sanqing coldly smirked, stepping back a pace and striking a signature pose reminiscent of Huang Feihong, leaving me at a loss for words, thinking to myself, Brother Huang, what are you doing at a time like this? Huang Sanqing shouted, Who are you really? A mere earthly immortal. You are not even worthy to know my name. However, seeing as you are about to perish by my hand, I shall indulge you. I am Mu Shuheng, the great ghost king under the ghost emperor. The chilling voice emanated from the shadowy cloak. Huang Sanqing drawled, continuing, I thought you were something of substance, but it turns out you were merely a Qingfeng ghost immortal. Do you believe that because you cannot best Chang Geng, you can be my opponent? Today, allow me to show you what the Huang family's celestial arts truly entail. Upon finishing his words, Huang Sanqing sprang forward with great agility, his hands claw-like as he lunged towards Mu Shuheng's throat. For reasons unknown, this action evoked a vivid dream I had at my second uncle's house, where a large yellow weasel, adorned with white fur on its back, was engaged in a fierce tussle atop a rooster. Is it true that these yellow weasels revel in neck-grabbing during their brawls? In stark contrast, Mu Shuheng formed a circle with his hands before his chest, conjuring a veil of black mist that served as a barrier. The moment Huang Sanqing's hands made contact with this shield, a resounding clash of metal echoed through the air. With his grasp thwarted, Huang Sanqing retreated a step, then leapt high to deliver a punch aimed at Mu Shuheng's crown. Remarkably, Mu Shuheng exhibited minimal movement, merely tilting his head with finesse to evade the blow. Subsequently, his right fist, clenched tightly, struck at Huang Sanqing, who had not yet regained his footing after landing. A thunderous sound erupted as Huang Sanqing was hit squarely, staggering back several paces, a mouthful of blood spewing forth. I hurried over to steady Huang Sanqing. With a piercing howl, Mu Shuheng lunged toward me, and I felt a chilling gust sweep by, stinging my face painfully. Struggling, I took a step toward the center of the formation. Where Mu Shuang was already within arm's reach, suddenly Huang Sanqing let out a fierce shout, and in a transformation reminiscent of a Saint Seiya, golden armor materialized around him in an instant. A long blade descended from the heavens, and Huang Sanqing grasped it firmly, brandishing it defiantly before Mu Shuang. I was utterly astonished by Huang Sanqing's appearance. He resembled a quintessential ancient hero, exceedingly dashing. Without uttering a word, he swung the blade downward, aiming for Mu Shuang's face, the edge of the sword flickering with sparks, a testament to the friction between the blade and the air, indicating the tremendous speed and force behind the strike. Mu Shuang, sensing the peril, hastily dodged, leaving an opening. Seizing the moment, I leaped into the center of the formation without a second thought. In an instant, I found myself back in my dormitory, the hour now past midnight. I spotted myself lying on the bed, and recalled Huang Sanqing's words, "What you see is not you, you are truly you." Fearlessly leap forward, for your brothers will clear the path. Adjusting my posture to mirror that of the other me on the bed, I lay down. A familiar sensation of weightlessness enveloped me, and upon opening my eyes, I realized I had returned. I pinched my thigh. A sharp pain assured me of my reality. The events of that night felt surreal, akin to a dream. Chapter 7, Return to Hometown. Upon returning to the real world, concern for Huang Sanqing crept into my thoughts. I pondered his fate. Given Mu Shuang's demonstrated combat prowess, it was clear he was not to be trifled with. How long could Huang Gu endure with his slight physique? Regret washed over me for my lack of loyalty. Huang Gu had bravely ventured into the soul capture hell to rescue me, and at the critical moment, I had abandoned him to flee. The more I reflected, the more I felt my actions were inhumane. What if something happened to Huang Gu? The weight of guilt would be unbearable. Lost in my troubling thoughts, a voice resonated within me. Your Huang Gu is safe. I was instantly filled with excitement, shouting, "Huang Gu, is that you? Have you emerged?" My dorm mates sprang from their beds, startled like frightened rabbits, staring at me as if I were mad. I quickly reassured them, "It's nothing, just a nightmare." My apologies, dear brothers. Please, return to your slumber. Lao San cast a disdainful glance at me and remarked, "At this age, people are busy dreaming sweet dreams, yet here you are, plagued by nightmares." Lao Si chimed in, "Indeed, that voice of yours is lethally powerful." I was lost in a dream entwined with our campus beauty in bed, and you ruined it. All of the brothers in the dormitory collectively made a gesture of contempt towards him, uttering the word infatuated. Subsequently, everyone settled down for some rest. Chapter 8, The Enigma of Zhang Yang's Academic Setbacks. After a lengthy hour aboard a long-distance bus, I finally arrived at Yunshui County, where Zhang Yang resided. Upon hailing a cab to Zhang Yang's temple, I was greeted by the sight of the entrance adorned with a plethora of colorful talismans. The glass windows bore bold inscriptions: fortune inquiry, fate alteration, spirit medium services, hysteria, and malevolent illnesses. Goodness, isn't this precisely what a deity would do? And yet, they call it a temple. As I pushed the door open, I found Zhang Yang seated behind an 8 Immortals table, clad in Taoist robes, with a middle-aged woman sitting across from him. Upon noticing my entrance, Zhang Yang raised his eyebrows at me, seeing a customer present. I discreetly took a seat nearby, primarily intrigued by the nature of Zhang Yang's business. I overheard the middle-aged woman inquiring, "Master Zhang, is there truly no other way regarding my husband's situation?" Zhang Yang stroked his beardless chin, adopting a serious demeanor as he replied, "Sister, it's not that there is no solution, but your husband has offended the Hu family, who are formidable figures. They've only taken his legs. Sparing his life is already showing mercy." I stood by, utterly perplexed. What kind of background does this Hu family possess that they would demand a man's legs yet claim to have shown mercy? However, it seemed inappropriate to interrupt. The middle-aged woman, her voice tinged with desperation, pleaded, "Master Zhang, I beseech you to save my husband. We are affluent. Name your price. He is not yet 50. How can I endure a life without him?" Upon hearing her plight, I wondered if Zhang Yang truly had the means to rescue her husband. How could a mere temple keeper wield such influence, capable of intervening in affairs of this nature? Yet, I pondered further, if this Hu family could simply cripple someone, how could Zhang Yang possibly stand against them? I found myself hoping he would refuse, reflecting on my own tendency to panic in such circumstances. Often feeling a twinge of self-disdain, Zhang Yang furrowed his brow, appearing troubled as he addressed the woman. Logically, I should not involve myself in this matter. However, since we are fated to meet, I shall reluctantly assist you this once. Once this is resolved, please advise your husband to refrain from engaging in such wicked deeds in the future. The middle-aged woman repeatedly insisted that he must not do so. Zhang Yang instructed her to return that evening at 9. Once the woman departed, I hastily approached Zhang Yang, exclaiming, "Come on, don't be reckless, you're running a temple. Why delve into such brawls?" With a puzzled expression, Zhang Yang questioned, "What brawl?" I was bewildered. Wasn't that woman just asking you to help her husband fight? Zhang Yang suddenly burst into laughter, exclaiming, "Zhou Yifan, have you become foolish from your studies? With my physique, I can barely defend myself, let alone engage in a fight. It's been ages since we last met. Let us find a place to drink, and I'll treat you." "Well, what about that matter from last night?" I inquired. "I truly believe it. You can't tell me you're a charlatan who doesn't believe in it." Can you? I nervously retorted to Zhang Yang, fearing that he might indeed be a fraud engaged in some supernatural dealings, which would leave me at risk of being deemed insane. And Zhang Yang's eyes widened, seemingly invigorated, as he exclaimed, "That's splendid, what a situation, it's truly wonderful that I believe in ghosts," he continued. Yifan, you have no idea how I have endured these past years. Noticing that Zhang Yang seemed ready to confide in me, I promptly adjusted my expression to one of rapt attention. He then asked, "Do you know why I dropped out of school back then?" I shook my head. Not only I but even the teachers lamented Zhang Yang's departure from academia. Zhang Yang took another sip of his drink before recounting the old tale. It turned out that during his third year of junior high, he fell ill, suffering from severe headaches accompanied by intermittent bouts of confusion. Despite his parents' relentless search for medical assistance, there was no improvement. Eventually, at his mother's insistence, they consulted a renowned deity who performed rituals. The deity informed his mother that her child possessed celestial ties and needed to engage in spiritual practices. As the deity conveyed, the old immortal is eager, and if you do not hasten to establish the temple, your childless condition will worsen, potentially leading to ruin and the loss of his life. After much deliberation, Zhang Yang's parents acquiesced and established the temple as advised. Remarkably, upon its establishment, Zhang Yang's illness vanished almost instantaneously. However, mere days later, word of this reached their relatives, who came forth to admonish his parents, claiming that they were indulging in superstitious beliefs. For a family of intellectuals, having a relative engaged with a deity was considered deeply embarrassing, leaving them feeling disgraced. Consequently, his parents relocated to Yunshui County, severing ties with those so-called relatives. Zhang Yang has since blamed himself for this shame, believing he was the cause of his parents' humiliation. Are you suggesting that your family's temple master can cure his ailment? I asked, perplexed. This ailment requires no treatment. The young fox wasn't truly harmed, nor is there any deep-seated grudge. It is simply that the old fox spirit couldn't swallow his pride and wanted to teach him a lesson. This evening I'll have our temple master summon the young fox's father for a discussion, and have him bow a couple of times in apology, and that will suffice. Zhang Yang's explanation left me bewildered, as it felt reminiscent of two children squabbling and then seeking their parents to mediate. But have you ever encountered those celestial beings? I asked with curiosity. Zhang Yang chuckled and replied, "What, do you wish to see them?" I inquired, "Can you make that happen?" Zhang Yang readily assured me, "Certainly, but you must first tell me why you believe in all this. Have you experienced something yourself?" I awkwardly cleared my throat and said, "I'll share my story with you another time. For now just tell me how I can witness it." I was somewhat reluctant to bring up the matter of Huang Sanqing, not out of fear of Zhang Yang's reaction, but rather because I felt a sense of guilt towards Huang Sanqing, who had suffered greatly for my sake, and I did not wish to trivialize his ordeal by recounting it as a mere anecdote to a friend. As I engaged in a casual yet meandering conversation with Zhang Yang, two individuals entered from outside, the elder sister from earlier in the day, who was pushing a man in a wheelchair. Upon entering, she courteously exclaimed, "Master Zhang, we have arrived." Chapter 9, Negotiations with the Celestial Beings. Zhang Yang looked at me with a puzzled expression and asked, "Have you opened your third eye?" At once, I realized I had inadvertently let slip too much. I hastily clarified, "No, I have never opened it. I merely read about it in supernatural novels." Zhang Yang responded with an understanding "oh," shaking his head as he said, "I figured you hadn't. However, the method you mentioned could indeed allow for such an opening, though it requires an exceptionally high level of Taoist mastery, which I am not capable of. To avoid any further missteps, I chose to speak as little as possible." After Zhang Yang waved a paper talisman in front of my eyes, I felt a sudden darkness envelop me, only to quickly return to clarity. Looking around, I was taken aback to find the room had suddenly filled with a throng of people, nearly 20 to be precise, each dressed in a variety of attire, some in suits, others in traditional garments, and even a few bare-chested, their appearances as diverse as one could imagine, reminiscent of a bustling film set. I noticed several enchanting women standing at the entrance. Their figures and features were such that even Taiwan's renowned long-legged beauty, whose name escapes me, would find herself overshadowed. One of these women even cast a flirtatious glance my way, leaving me momentarily flustered. Zhang Yang patted my shoulder, startling me. Turning to him, I found him grinning as he inquired, "What do you think? Quite a spectacle, isn't it?" I pointed at the crowd, stammering, "Are all these your celestial beings?" Zhang Yang nodded, informing me that this was merely a fraction of his celestial assembly, which boasted over 500 members. I was left agape in astonishment. Zhang Yang urged, "Let us not linger in shock. We must first attend to the matters concerning those two in the room." I followed Zhang Yang as we navigated through the throng of celestial beings toward the inner chamber, observing as some greeted me with polite nods, while the majority chose to disregard my presence entirely. Upon entering the inner room, I found it considerably more spacious than the outer area, where two young men clad in yellow short-sleeved shirts stood beside the elder sister and her man, both nodding at Zhang Yang in acknowledgement. The elder sister, upon seeing Zhang Yang, hastily inquired, "Master Zhang, can you treat my husband's ailment?" Did the elder celestial being discern any issues with me? I still found it curious how the elder's earlier reaction had seemed somewhat peculiar. Gazing at you evokes a sense of familiarity, yet upon reflection I realize I have no acquaintances as youthful as you. Perhaps I mistook you for someone else, the headmaster explained. I responded with an oh. Choosing not to elaborate further. It was clear they were underestimating me. Anyone with a modicum of sense could see something was amiss with the elder's reaction. Meanwhile, the elder sister, who appeared utterly bewildered, tugged at my sleeve and cautiously asked, "Young brother, are you also a great deity?" Me, I suppose so, I replied awkwardly. Just as I spoke, a small whirlwind suddenly arose within the room, sending the incense altar rattling and clattering, startling both the elder sister and her husband into sitting upright with alarm. After the whirlwind, an elderly man who bore a striking resemblance to Master Hu appeared in the room. He shook out his sleeves and bowed to Master Hu, saying, "I am Man Shan, honored to meet you, Wu Tian." I realized that this man was none other than the father of the little fox cub, and it turned out Master Hu's name was Wu Tian, a name that exuded strength and grandeur. Wu Tian stepped forward to assist Hu Man Shan to his feet, saying, "My dear brother Man Shan, there is no need for such formalities. Surely you understand why I have invited you here today. Might I ask you to grant this old man a favor?" Hu Man Shan quickly took a couple of steps back and bowed again to Wu Tian, replying, "You overstated, brother Tian. Since you have spoken, I shall certainly comply, especially since my son is not in any serious trouble, merely receiving a lesson." He then cast a sidelong glance at me, and I thought to myself, "I am merely a bystander. Your concern for me makes me feel quite embarrassed." Clearing his throat, Wu Tian addressed to Man Shan, "Since you were so graciously granting me face, I shall take the matter into my own hands. Let this Ba Bao Luo Han bow an apology, and we shall consider the matter settled. What do you think?" For the sake of clarity, in celestial circles, a married man is referred to as Ba Bao Luo Han. An unmarried man is Xiao Jintong, a married woman is Pan Tu Jinu, and an unmarried girl is Xiao Hua Rong. But Hu Man Shan responded promptly, "I leave it entirely in your capable hands, brother." Hu Tian replied cheerfully, "Excellent." Xiaoyang Zhongyang approached the elder sister and said, "All right, have your man bow 3 times at the incense altar, and this matter will no longer be pursued by the old celestial." The couple, who had been watching with rapt attention, finally regained their composure. The elder sister hurriedly helped her husband from his wheelchair to the mat before the incense altar, once on his knees. He wasted no time and performed 3 resounding bows, promising never to repeat such a mistake. With a wave of his hand, Hu Man Shan sent a beam of white light into the legs of the elder sister's husband. Astonished, he touched his legs and exclaimed to his wife, "Dear, my legs feel warm." The elder sister, equally elated, encouraged him, "Then hurry and try to see if you can stand." Cautiously, the elder sister's husband attempted to rise from the ground, and both were overjoyed. Unable to contain their smiles, they showered Zhang Yang with heartfelt thanks, ultimately handing over 3,000 yuan, leaving in high spirits while pushing the empty wheelchair. Once they departed, Hu Man Shan turned to Wu Tian and said, "The matter is resolved. I shall not intrude any longer." Hu Man Shan takes his leave. At that moment, I noticed the figures of several celestial beings becoming increasingly indistinct. Rubbing my eyes vigorously, I finally discerned 2 elder Hu family celestials conversing and gesturing towards me before their forms vanished. I asked Zhang Yang why they had disappeared. Zhang Yang informed me that the time for the heavily I had come to an end. After spending 3 days at Zhang Yang's home, I received a phone call from Su Jing, who informed me that she had found a job as an external editor at a newspaper and inquired about my recent circumstances. Feeling somewhat embarrassed, I admitted that I had yet to find suitable employment. It truly made me blush. I had promised to create a world of our own upon graduation, yet after so many days, I still had no leads on employment. Despite sending out dozens of resumes, they had all vanished without a trace. Nowadays, companies often demand several years of experience, and while I possess a few years of experience in the realm of traditional games, it is of no use in the current job market. Since that incident during my university days, I had seldom experienced dreams. However, on the eve of Zhang Yang's departure, I found myself ensnared in a peculiar dream once more. Chapter 10, Departure from Jibei. In the dream, Su Jing was entwined with my arm as we strolled through the university campus, and in that moment, I felt content and elated, unbeknownst to us. We arrived at the foot of her dormitory. The previously radiant sunshine was suddenly engulfed by dark clouds, and a fierce wind began to howl. I grasped Su Jing's hand tightly and reassured her, "Fear not, it may rain shortly. Let us hasten our steps." Su Jing inquired, "Why should I be afraid?" A chill ran down my spine, for the voice that spoke was unmistakably not Su Jing's. Turning to face her, I was struck with terror. It was no longer Su Jing, but rather the mischievous visage of Li Xiaoyu. I swiftly broke free from her grasp and leapt away. An eerie laughter escaped Li Xiaoyu's lips. In an instant, every hair on my body stood on end, and trembling, I questioned Li Xiaoyu. "Haven't you already been eliminated by that foul Taoist?" Before I could finish my thought, Li Xiaoyu interjected with a retort. "How can you trust that unreliable Chang Geng? Wasn't she supposed to be vanquished? What was this apparition before me?" Seeing my silence, Li Xiaoyu continued, "You need not fear. I harbor no intentions of harming you. If I were to believe you, I would truly be a fool. Then why seek me out? Do you have nothing better to do?" I retorted. The memories of that day when Chang Geng had subdued her flashed through my mind. Particularly the venomous glare Li Xiaoyu had cast my way. I cautiously inquired, "Did you not already perish?" Another round of sinister laughter erupted, as Li Xiaoyu, twirling her hair in a coy manner, presented herself as a demure woman. Had she performed this gesture before her demise, it would have undoubtedly ensnared the hearts of many naive youths, yet now, I understood her true nature, and a wave of revulsion washed over me. I hastily said, "Enough of this charade, sister. You just tell me, what do you want? If you truly mean me no harm, I shall take my leave." With that, I turned to depart. "Wait," Li Xiaoyu called after me. I was not incapable of fleeing, however, evading a ghost was no simple task. I turned back, my impatience evident. "What is it that you desire? My master has instructed me to convey a message to you." Li Xiaoyu intoned softly. "A message? What message? Does your master know me?" "Who is your master?" I inquired, wiping the cold sweat from my brow. I turned to Zhang Yang and said, "Yangzi, I fear I may have attracted a ghost." Zhang Yang's eyes widened in disbelief as he asked, "What happened? What is the matter?" I gasped for breath. "Last night, a ghost invaded my dreams." Chapter 11, by Sanya. On the morning of our departure, Zhang Yang appeared before me clad in a Taoist robe, carrying a monk's bag. I questioned him, "Is this ensemble a fusion of styles?" Zhang Yang replied, "You wouldn't understand. A true master must embody the ethereal. How else can one stand apart?" "Indeed, you are quite distinct," I remarked. "You resemble a curious amalgamation of a Taoist priest and a nun." Zhang Yang promptly interrupted, "Hey, do not speak so disrespectfully. One must show reverence to those who have renounced worldly ties." I fell silent. The son of a real estate mogul from Jibei City has descended into madness, and despite thorough examinations at the hospital, no discernible issues were found. Wealthy individuals often place their faith in the supernatural, leading them to seek out numerous spiritual masters and practitioners of yin and yang, yet no clarity has emerged. Consequently, they are mobilizing their connections to seek out esteemed figures. Once you arrive, you will understand. Zhang Yang remarked to me, "Since so many have failed to resolve the issue, do you think we can succeed?" I inquired. "Let us not end up with nothing to show for our efforts but the cost of travel." Zhang Yang chuckled and assured me, "No need to worry, this family is affluent. Whether we succeed or fail, we won't be running errands for free. You're the expert. I'm merely a bystander." I muttered quietly. Zhang Yang burst into laughter, throwing an arm around my shoulder. "What's wrong, Yifan?" Feeling scared. "Don't worry, I've got your back. Everything will be just fine." I scoffed. "What is there to be afraid of? I've seen my fair share." The driver, noticing our lively conversation, interjected, "Brothers, are you both experts?" The driver's question made me blush crimson, but Zhang Yang readily affirmed, "Indeed, we are experts." I was at a loss as to what Zhang Yang had to be so proud of. "Can you see everything?" the driver asked. "That depends on the situation. If for genuine ailments, one must still visit a hospital. We specialize in matters beyond the reach of conventional medicine," Zhang Yang explained, feeling a flush of embarrassment wash over me. I realized that while I had encountered my share of the supernatural, many still held a deep-seated aversion to the profession of expert. The driver, however, seemed unfazed and asked Zhang Yang, "Do you have a business card? I'd like to contact you in the future." Are you traveling that far? What is the purpose?" I inquired. Su Jing, a middle school classmate, is conducting business in Jibei. I'm accompanying her to learn a thing or two. "How is your work going?" I replied. "You seem quite ambitious." "I'm doing well, just constantly thinking of you." If Su Jing were to discover that I was accompanying an expert to engage in supernatural matters, I wondered if she would still consider me ambitious. "Alright, I'll wait for you," Su Jing responded. "What happened to the excavator driver?" Zhang Yang asked. "Don't even mention it. It was utterly tragic when they unearthed the coffin. Some knowledgeable individuals urged them to stop digging. The driver, a young man, was obstinate, insisting that nothing was amiss. With another scoop, he pried open the coffin lid, and a female corpse tumbled out, dressed in traditional attire. The body appeared entirely intact, as if merely asleep. "It was terrifying," the driver recounted. I interjected, "So how did the driver meet his end?" The driver, slightly irked, replied, excavator driver. Can you not refer to him just as driver?" I hastily clarified, "My apologies, I did not mean to offend." The driver continued, "You're too impatient. Listen to my account." When the corpse emerged, the excavator driver was bewildered. His eyes were wide open as he exited the vehicle, which was still in gear and moving forward. The poor lad stumbled and fell beneath the tracks of the excavator. You can only imagine the aftermath. Brain matter splattered everywhere. Half of those present were retching. "The master imparted some knowledge to me," Zhang Yang stated. "So what conclusions can we draw from this?" I asked. Before Zhang Yang could utter a word, the driver eagerly interjected, "Are we on the verge of chaos?" "My friend, as a taxi driver, I encounter all sorts of events daily, and the number of supernatural occurrences in recent years has been rather excessive." Zhang Yang replied, "My abilities are insufficient. We are currently in a period of decline, and it is quite normal for peculiar and eerie incidents to arise. As long as nothing happens to you, refrain from overthinking, and all shall be well." Upon arriving at the airport, the driver warmly waved goodbye to the two of us. Zhang Yang suggested we first attend to the check-in procedures, then take care of the luggage. I remarked, "Why bother checking in such a small bag? We can just carry it. We'll have to wait for the baggage claim after the flight anyway." Zhang Yang informed me, there are items in the bag that are not permitted on the plane. By the time we disembarked, it was already past 8 o'clock. Stepping out of the airport, we spotted a man in a suit. Sporting sunglasses, holding a sign that read, Yunshui Town Zhang Yang. Master Zhang Yang approached him for a brief conversation, and the suited gentleman led us to a luxurious Mercedes-Benz van. It was my first time riding in such a high-end vehicle. The rear armrest was adorned with buttons, and out of curiosity, I began to fiddle with them. Zhang Yang whispered to me, try to maintain some composure. Don't behave like a country bumpkin. I shot him a glare. After nearly an hour of driving, we arrived at an enormous villa. The term enormous is warranted. While villas are not uncommon, one of this magnitude is indeed rare. I estimated it to be no less than 3,000 to 5,000 square meters. How many people could reside within? Would one not get lost on their way to the restroom in the middle of the night? The suited man escorted us to the reception room, where staff prepared tea for us. Then excused himself to summon Master Baisan. I couldn't help but think that wealthy individuals truly live in a different world. After all this time, they still refer to themselves as grandfather. Before I could finish my cup of tea, the suited man entered with an elderly gentleman leaning on a cane. Without a doubt, this must be Master Baisan and Zhang Yang, and I promptly stood up. Master Baisan waved his hand, signaling us to take our seats, and settled into the main chair himself. He inquired, which of you is Master Zhang Yang? Zhang Yang slightly inclined his body and replied, I am Zhang Yang. Master Baisan nodded, then pointed at me, asking, and who is this young brother? Zhang Yang responded, this is my assistant Zhou Yifan. Good. Master Baisan exclaimed 3 times, continuing, young and accomplished, indeed. Zhang Yang humbly replied, thank you for your kind words, Master Baisan. Could you elaborate on the specific circumstances regarding the young master? Master Baisan sighed heavily and said, Of course, the situation is as follows. I acquired a plot of land in the Ningxia district with plans to construct high-end office buildings. The project was entrusted to Bai Guang, my son. On the day of excavation, they unearthed a coffin. Normally, when encountering such occurrences, one would certainly invite a practitioner to perform a rite before proceeding, but this project was under considerable pressure from the government. And Bai Guang did not take the matter seriously. They hastily transported the coffin to the outskirts and burned it. Later, I scolded Bai Guang for this decision, yet since everything had been completed without any major incidents, I thought to myself, what is done is done. However, just a week later, Bai Guang went mad. I cannot tell you how many Taoists and monks I consulted, but none could discern the issue. Eventually, I had a friend who had previously sought your assistance in the northeast. Thus I asked him to contact you. After listening to the account narrated by Baisan, a sudden recollection of the taxi driver's words before boarding the plane struck me. I glanced at Zhang Yang, only to find him gazing back at me. He subtly shook his head, and at that moment I comprehended that he did not wish for me to speak. Zhang Yang inquired of Baisan whether the construction on that plot of land was still ongoing. It's halted, Baisan replied. After such a major incident, who would dare proceed? Moreover, the construction crew is too apprehensive to continue. Zhang Yang pondered for a moment before stating, I wish to visit Linggongzi. And that piece of land? Baisan consented, saying, that is feasible, but it is rather late today. I have arranged for dinner to be prepared in the kitchen. You two should rest well tonight. Tomorrow, I shall have Xiaofeng accompany you both. Baisan did not join us for dinner. The man in black, Xiaofeng, led us to the dining room, handed us 2 room keys, informing us that these were for our quarters, and then departed. Upon seeing a table laden with delicacies, my stomach promptly reacted, and disregarding decorum, I sat down and began to feast. Zhang Yang remarked that I resembled a starving ghost reincarnated. I retorted that I was avenging the brothers and sisters across the nation who had yet to prosper. Zhang Yang chuckled, saying, so merely dining at someone else's expense constitutes revenge. I never realized you harbored such animosity towards the affluent. That mindset is rather unhealthy. They are, after all, our benefactors. I stuffed an abalone into my mouth and replied, let us eat and pour. We both erupted into laughter. Chapter 12. The bewildered Bai Guang. Upon returning to our room, I asked Zhang Yang, Yangzi, why does Bai Laoda's situation bear such resemblance to what the taxi driver mentioned earlier? Do you think these 2 incidents could be connected? Zhang Yang gave me a thumbs up. I inquired, what does that mean? He chuckled and replied, good, I see you're thinking critically. Come on, do you really think I'm a fool? I retorted with mild irritation. Zhang Yang continued, what you mentioned is indeed a possibility. This matter is intricate. We shall discuss it further when we meet that fellow tomorrow. For now, it remains unclear. By the way, Yifan, take this. It might prove useful in a critical moment. He handed me a stack of talismans. I asked, what do you want me to do with this? I don't even know how to use it. No way, are these celestial beings traveling with us on the plane? I queried. No, they cannot board planes. Their magnetic fields are too powerful. If so many celestial beings were to board, the plane would likely get lost. They have their own paths, but they cannot brazenly cross over. In Northeast, celestial beings must possess official documentation to traverse the Shanhaiguan. Without it, crossing would violate regulations, akin to smuggling, and getting caught means being repatriated. Zhang Yang explained. Curiously, I asked, wow, there are so many rules for celestial beings. Zhang Yang, with a serious demeanor, replied, what do you think? Buddhism has its precepts, Taoism has its regulations, and of course, celestial beings are bound by heavenly laws. If there were no oversight, chaos would ensue, and the world would be thrown into disarray. Have you not heard of southern Mashan and northern Dima? I nodded in agreement, stating, yes, I've heard it said that the south is home to Mashan Taoists, while the north is inhabited by the Dima who established their halls. Zhang Yang scrutinized me and asked, what do you think? Have you discerned something? I pointed at myself and asked, are you referring to me? You are a deity, and you inquire of me. I can comprehend. I am indeed you. Zhang Yang chuckled lightly and remarked, I merely wish to ascertain whether you possess the potential to be a deity. I scoffed, certainly not. So, what have you gleaned? Upon exiting the room, we observed Lin Feng and Zhang Yang engaged in conversation at the staircase. Zhang Yang summoned Lin Feng and exchanged a few words, after which Lin Feng escorted Dr. Zhang away. Zhang Yang then opened his monk's bag, retrieved a handful of talismans, and handed them to me, instructing me to affix one to each window and door within the villa. Zhang Yang also took a handful to place on the first floor. We ordered takeout for lunch. At around 2 in the afternoon, Bai Guang awoke, mercifully not causing a ruckus, simply meandering about the room. I offered him 2 steamed buns, which he accepted eagerly, showing no interest in the vegetables. I remarked to Zhang Yang, I find him to be quite manageable. Perhaps we should cease treatment altogether, as he is far easier to care for than a puppy. Zhang Yang chided, saying I lacked seriousness. That evening Zhang Yang ordered 2 bottles of beer, and after our meal, he said to me, Yifan, I have opened your celestial eye. Be cautious tonight. Chapter 13, The Boundless Sea of Suffering. Who the hell are you? What have you done to Zhang Yang? I demanded of the shadow before me. The shadow shifted and stepped into the light. It was a disconcerting sight. Upon recognizing its visage, I nearly retched my lunch. This wretched creature was grotesque, with a face riddled with sores, clad in a black robe reminiscent of Mu Shuhan, the one previously injured by Huang Sanqing. Could this fiend also be a ghost king? I lamented my misfortune. There were countless minor spirits, yet I could not perceive a single one, with only those of B-class association to me, clutching the talisman Zhang Yang had given me. The shadow erupted into a fit of cackling and taunted, are you referring to that little brother? Ma, I have already captured him. Now I shall take you to meet him. He. With that, it glided toward me, and I hurled the talisman in its direction. The talisman gleamed as it darted toward the repulsive specter. I had anticipated that even if it did not drive him away, it would at least cause him some disarray. To my dismay, the loathsome creature waved its hand, and the talisman ignited instantly, reducing it to ashes in the blink of an eye. Zhang Yang, you have led me to ruin, I cursed vehemently, turning and sprinting upstairs. The grotesque being pursued me closely, its laughter echoing ominously. Could it be that I am to meet my demise here? I thought frantically, not daring to pause for breath. In a flash, I dove into a room on the second floor, swiftly closing and locking the door behind me. Just as I began to catch my breath, I was rendered speechless by the scene before me. I had not entered anyone's room. Instead, I stood upon an expansive plain, with dark clouds swirling above and terrifying ghostly faces fleeting in and out of sight among the shadows. In the distance lay a dense cluster of graves. How could this villa's rooms connect to such a place? Where on earth am I? Zhang Yang, you wretched man, are you not a deity? Did you not come accompanied by a host of celestial beings? If you cannot even keep one person safe, how can we expect you to uphold justice? A wave of shock and terror surged through me, leaving me with the sensation that my heart might leap from my throat. I sought a flat surface to sit down and regain my composure. As I lifted my gaze to survey my surroundings, I realized that the entire space had undergone a transformation. The tumultuous black clouds had vanished, and the horrifying faces that had once loomed were nowhere to be seen. Instead, an all-encompassing darkness enveloped me, and the scenery around gradually faded into obscurity. The once tranquil graveyard was now adorned with clusters of eerie phosphorescent flames, a grotesque shade of green that sent chills down my spine. A chilling breeze swept through, causing me to shudder involuntarily. I took a deep breath, striving to shake off the grip of fear. My mind raced as I sought a means of salvation. Fight? With what? The talisman Zhang Yang had given me would be as useless against these vile spirits as toilet paper. The hands clasped around my neck began to constrict, and I could distinctly feel my breathing becoming labored. I kicked my legs desperately, but to no avail. My consciousness began to blur. Images of Su Jing's delicate features and my parents' loving faces flashed before my eyes. I recognized that I was slipping into hallucination. Was this what it felt like to be on the brink of death? A torrent of frustration surged within me. I was not ready to leave this world, just as I felt my awareness teetering on the edge of oblivion. A warmth radiated from the palm of my left hand. Suddenly, an idea struck me. Summoning the last remnants of my strength, I swung my left hand backward. Two distinct sounds echoed against my back, a sharp crack followed by the grotesque wail of the spirit. A yellow powder coalesced around the vile creature, accompanied by an unpleasant stench that wafted toward me. I mused, could this be the secret weapon that Huang had provided? Goodness, Huang, you truly outdid yourself. This stuff could be packaged and sold as grenades. The creature's screams of agony were incessant, interspersed with curses. You despicable wretch, what have you used to harm me? I thought to myself, if it weren't for Huang's secret weapon, I would have been long dead by now. Observing the creature's pitiful state, a strange sense of satisfaction welled within me. Perhaps everyone harbors a shadowy side. I abandoned the wailing spirit and sprinted toward a singular direction, my foremost desire being to swiftly locate an exit. The original door had disappeared. I could not discern how long I had been running when I was confronted by a vast river, several feet wide, obstructing my path. The river churned with blood-red waters. White skulls bobbing ominously with the current. What a sight! The river banks were adorned with vivid crimson flowers. Could this be the fabled Sea of Torment and the other shore flowers of hell? It is said that the Sea of Torment is formed from the blood and flesh of countless beings. Those who have committed egregious sins in life cannot cross the Naiha bridge after death, and are instead cast into the Sea of Torment by the spectral enforcers, only to emerge cleansed of their worldly sins after enduring innumerable tribulations. There exists another means of liberation, which is the profound realization of Buddhist teachings, so-called. The sea of suffering is boundless, turning back is the shore. However, such enlightenment requires immense fortune. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva vowed that he would not attain Buddhahood until hell is empty, dedicating countless eons to rescuing souls from the Sea of Torment. While some beings have gradually been saved and ascended to the heavens, the sea of suffering remains vast and unending. If there is a sea of suffering, then there must also be a Naiha bridge. And where there is a Naiha bridge, there will be Mengpa. If the legends hold true, if I could find Mengpa and share my plight with her, beseeching her assistance to send me back. Perhaps there remains a glimmer of hope. Upon reflection, I glanced around, failing to locate the so-called bridge. I proceeded along the riverbank, maintaining a heightened state of vigilance, although Huang Ji's secret WQ had aided me in dispatching the repugnant foes. I was left with only one. After utilizing the first, should I employ this remaining one, I would truly become a lamb awaiting slaughter. After a brief interval, I suddenly heard a rustling sound emanating from the flower thicket by the river. I slowed my pace, fixated on the foliage, and instinctively picked up a wooden stick from the riverbank. At that moment, the tremors of the flowers intensified, and a creature resembling a skinned wild dog lunged at me from the underbrush. I swung the stick, striking it squarely on the head. The wild dog halted, shaking its head before charging at me once more. I swung again, but the agile beast deftly dodged and continued its relentless advance. Just as I prepared to counter yet again, my foot slipped, and I tumbled into the sea of blood. The crimson liquid surged into my nostrils and mouth, a nauseating stench filling the air. I quickly held my breath and swam vigorously towards the shore. Upon catching sight of the wild dog lurking menacingly at the water's edge, my heart sank. Truly, fate seemed intent on my demise. Chapter 14. Encounter with the King of the Underworld. Brother, could you possibly speak in Chinese? I cannot comprehend the language of snakes. The python swiftly navigated through the sea of blood, akin to a torpedo. My legs remained submerged in the sanguine depths. Acutely aware of the crimson fluid sliding past them, after what felt like an eternity, the great python halted beside a temple adrift on the blood sea. Have we arrived? I pondered, as the serpent seemed to urge me forward with a sinuous motion. I leapt from its back, finding the temple before me rather unremarkable, a mundane structure reminiscent of many I had encountered in the mountains of my homeland. At that moment, a resounding voice echoed from within the temple. You have arrived? What do you mean by that? Are you speaking to me? I inquired loudly. Who are you? Do we know each other? I asked. I am but a humble monk, Jin Xiaoju, with the Dharma name Dizang. The monk articulated, word by word. Stunned, I found myself at a loss for words upon hearing him, the king of the underworld, here in the sea of suffering, helping souls escape from hell. Such an explanation seemed fitting. My legs weakened, compelling me to kneel, but the voice of the king of the underworld reached my ears. There is no need for such formalities. We are, in fact, old acquaintances. This time, I am here at the behest of your past life to return to you something that was entrusted to me. My goodness, this revelation left me utterly bewildered. I had a prior connection with the king of the underworld. Even now I felt somewhat dazed, as if caught in a dream, so surreal was the experience. I asked the king of the underworld, might you enlighten me as to who I was in my previous life? The Bodhisattva shook his head and replied, in your last life, you did not entrust me to enlighten you in this one. Thus, I cannot disclose that information. I hastily responded, but that person was also me, so I now consent to you revealing my identity from my past life. The king of the underworld smiled and said, if you do not even know who you were in your last life, how can you dare to claim that the you of that life would permit me to reveal it to you? The king of Ksitigarbha continued, there is no need for you to be anxious. When the time is ripe, you will naturally comprehend everything. With a wave of his hand, a beam of golden light entered my crown chakra. Immediately, I felt a refreshing coolness envelop my mind, causing the tension and fear that had gripped me to dissipate entirely. What is this? I inquired, puzzled, addressing the Bodhisattva. This is the fragment of consciousness from your previous life that I have entrusted to you. Ksitigarbha replied. A fragment of consciousness? What does that entail? I asked. It is merely certain instincts from your past existence, he elucidated. What purpose does this fragment serve? I pressed. I am unaware, the Bodhisattva responded. Ksitigarbha then stated, You are presently in the depths of the sea of suffering in hell. The entity that pursued you earlier was the grotesque ghost Su Fan, under the command of the Ghost Emperor, though you have managed to injure him. The Bodhisattva was quite candid about this matter. I continued to inquire. My companion Zhang Yang and I have gone to Jibei to address the affairs of the Bai family. Could you enlighten me as to whether the matter of the white light is related to the coffin that was unearthed? The Bodhisattva nodded, letting out a sigh as he spoke. The Ghost Emperor has placed 36 blood coffins throughout the mortal realm, with each location housing a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 12 coffins. Each coffin requires a soul of purine to nourish it. He is orchestrating a grand scheme. The Ghost Emperor, I asked, perplexed. Indeed, during this age of decline, deities and Buddhas retreat from the world, and the Ghost Emperor has emerged. The mortal realm is far from peaceful, the Bodhisattva explained. Who exactly is the Ghost Emperor? What are his intentions? I inquired further. I was once a mother serpent, he continued, and just now you rode upon her. The recollection of that scene sent a shiver down my spine. Young man, do not entertain such sordid thoughts. The large python's head lunged towards me, causing me to retreat several steps in alarm. Kayetagarba observed us with a smile before turning to depart. Zhou Yifan, do you wish to try riding me again? The python teased. Upon realizing her gender, I dared not attempt to ride her again and quickly replied, I wouldn't dream of it. Wise of you, the emerald green python remarked before diving into the blood sea. Moments later, a green light emerged from the depths, transforming upon landing into a young woman clad in green. A long braid swayed behind her like a serpent. Her beauty was beyond compare, exuding a youthful radiance with rosy cheeks, as if she had stepped out from a painting. I was momentarily entranced when her sharp voice shattered my admiration. Young man, have you seen enough? Are you leaving or not? If you do not depart, I shall take my leave. I was utterly taken aback. I had not expected such a stunning girl to possess such fierceness. Let us go, I hurriedly replied, but how do we leave? Chapter 15. The suspicious Lin Feng. As I pushed open the villa door, a talisman was immediately affixed to my forehead. I cursed aloud. Damn it, who is it? From a distance, I heard Zhang Yang's voice. Yifan, is that you? I replied with an irritated expression. Of course it's me. Who else could it be? A ghost? Zhang Yang emerged from a corner, saying, I thought you might actually be a ghost. Where have you been? I retorted with displeasure. I was about to ask you the same. Where did you run off to? I nearly lost my life. Zhang Yang, with a face full of grievance, lamented to me, I haven't gone anywhere, I merely took a nap, and upon awakening, you had vanished. I searched everywhere, even dispatching my celestial beings, yet I could not locate you. Do not even mention your celestial beings. I become infuriated at the mere thought. You brought so many, yet you could not even keep track of a living person like me, I retorted, my eyes wide with incredulity. This situation was indeed perplexing. Our adversary was formidable, having infiltrated the villa without triggering my talismans, effortlessly subduing the 10 or more celestial beings I had brought along, leaving me unwittingly ensnared. Zhang Yang, appearing somewhat embarrassed, remarked, what about the white light? I recall that it disappeared before the foul creature emerged. I inquired hastily, yes, that's so, that cannot be right. Let me check. With that, Zhang Yang approached the window, peering outside, scratching his head as he said, indeed, where has it all gone? Just a moment ago, the atmosphere outside was thick with ominous energy, yet now it seems to have dissipated. Where did you go just now? Zhang Yang asked me. I hesitated, uncertain whether to divulge my experience, but after a moment's contemplation I deemed it necessary to share it with him, especially since we needed to address the matter of the white light. I recounted my encounter, omitting the details regarding the shards of my previous life's consciousness, as I felt it prudent to clarify that issue before discussing it further. Upon hearing that I had met Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, Zhang Yang abruptly embraced my shoulders, exclaiming, What, you met Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva? What did he look like? Was he like the statues? I gently pushed Zhang Yang's hands away, responding, Brother, must you be so animated? Aren't you at all concerned that I nearly fell victim to the foul creature's grasp? Zhang Yang pointed at me, a puzzled expression on his face. Noticing his odd demeanor, I asked, What is it, Zhang Yang? Don't frighten me, no more of this, it's time for bed. It was evident that Zhang Yang was utterly exhausted from the night's events. And although we had not gleaned any useful clues, I found solace in the fact that Ksitigarbha had provided us with a clear path forward, to visit the site of the coffin excavation the following day. Perhaps, as Ksitigarbha suggested, we would uncover the intricacies of the situation. Just as Zhang Yang and I were about to retire for the night, a knock echoed from outside the door, prompting us to exchange glances. Who could it be at this hour? Zhang Yang mused. I encouraged him, Go see who it is. That will reveal all. Zhang Yang stealthily approached the door, calling out, Who is it? Another 2 knocks resounded from the outside. Damn it, who is it? With that, Zhang Yang flung the door open, revealing Lin Feng standing there. Upon seeing Zhang Yang, Lin Feng said, Master Zhang, it's me. I came to check on you, worried that something might happen tonight. It's difficult to control the white light when it acts up. Zhang Yang acknowledged with an O and stepped aside to let Lin Feng enter. At that moment, Cici's voice echoed in my mind, This person seems off. A chill ran through me. Off? In what way? Chapter 16. The Soul's Reckoning. I scrutinized Lin Feng from head to toe but discerned nothing amiss. In my mind, I questioned Cici, Sister Cici. I don't see anything unusual. What have you discovered? Cece fell into a moment of silence before speaking. When he first entered, there was something following him, but now it has vanished. Moreover, this time is when humans are most fatigued. What could he possibly want? There must be some issue. I asked Cece, astonished. Something was following him. What was it? Cece replied. I couldn't see it clearly, but it resembled a shadowy spirit. What? Could it be that Lin Feng is being haunted by a ghost? I inquired. And that's not all. So many monks and Taoists have come before, and while they may not have succeeded, I've never heard of them encountering such myriad problems. Why is it that trouble has found us, as if we've stirred a hornet's nest, with spirits both large and small emerging endlessly? After his transformation, Lin Feng had become noticeably more clumsy, whereas Hu Jintian appeared remarkably agile, darting about with astonishing speed. Although Lin Feng moved sluggishly, his resilience was truly commendable. He mostly relied on his towering physique to withstand Hu Jintian's strikes. The surrounding celestial beings also sought opportunities to assist. Zhang Yang produced a talisman from his person, intermittently tossing it towards Lin Feng. I was tempted to approach him and say, that worthless item won't help, but it seemed rather inappropriate to voice such sentiments at that moment. I asked Cece, Sister Cece, aren't you going to help? Cece replied, if I go to help, what will you do? This fox spirit practiced authentic celestial arts, so dealing with him should pose little challenge, though I feared he might have accomplices. What, accomplices? I exclaimed in surprise. Sic, with an air of exasperation, responded, didn't I just tell you? When he entered, there was another shadowy spirit behind him. Right, another shadowy spirit. I sometimes truly despised my own ineptitude. Whenever faced with a situation, my mind would come to an abrupt halt. I muttered to myself, a shadowy spirit, there is still a shadowy spirit. Suddenly a sense of dread washed over me regarding Bai Guang. With this thought, I dashed toward Bai Guang's room on the second floor. Upon seeing me sprinting upstairs, Lin Feng casually waved, sending a long sword formed of black light hurtling toward me. In an instant, Cece transformed, her serpentine tail deftly deflecting the flying sword, with Cece protecting me. I felt untroubled by any underhanded tactics Lin Feng might employ behind me. I took 2 steps at a time, reaching Bai Guang's room, and upon opening the door, I found Bai Guang struggling on the bed. A vague humanoid figure of black mist was perched atop him, hands tightly gripping Bai Guang's throat. A surge of alarm struck me. We were here to heal Bai Guang, and while failure to do so wouldn't be catastrophic given the number of others we had been unable to help, should he die, considering Bai Sanya's influence in Jibei, could Zhang Yang and I possibly leave Jibei City unscathed? The situation was dire, and I disregarded my own safety, launching myself like a tiger pouncing on its prey toward the black mist. Cece cautioned me to be careful, that is the shadowy spirit, physical attacks are ineffective. I had no time to ponder Cece's understanding of physical attacks, but upon hearing her words, I suddenly remembered the yellow 3-star talisman I had on my left hand. Without a moment's hesitation, I flicked my left hand, sending the pitch-black sphere hurtling toward the humanoid black mist. The black mist attempted to obstruct it, but as soon as the sphere made contact, it instantly transformed into a yellow powdery substance, enveloping the black mist entirely. The black mist emitted a wretched scream before fleeing through the wall. Bai Guang lay upon the bed, incessantly chattering, just as I was about to check on Bai Guang's condition. I heard Mang Cece exclaim in a peculiar manner, Shou Yifan, what on earth did you throw? It reeks. I chuckled softly and replied, this is the nuclear weapon of the Huang family approaching Bai Guang. I noted that he appeared to be unharmed. At that moment, I remembered there was still a tall figure downstairs. Before I could turn around, Zhang Yang, Hu Jintian, and a host of other celestial beings pushed the door open and entered. Hu Jintian inquired, Yifan, what just transpired? Oh dear, what is that smell? I grinned and remarked, I just scared off a malevolent spirit using the Huang family's nuclear weapon. When did you acquire such advanced weaponry? Zhang Yang leaned in curiously, what nuclear weapon? Isn't that just the flatulence of a yellow weasel? Hu Jintian urged everyone to exit swiftly, exclaiming, let us get out of here, this stench is unbearable. At that moment, I felt a sharp pain in my waist and turned to see Mang Cece had transformed into her human form, twisting my waist and whispering in my ear, you've grown quite adept at deceiving your dear aunt. I chuckled in response. Everyone promptly descended the stairs. I asked Zhang Yang, where is Lin Feng? He informed me, as soon as you two rushed upstairs, Lin Feng bolted. Together, Zhang Yang and I assisted Bai Guang down from the second floor. At this juncture, Zhang Yang finally noticed Mang Cece beside me and asked, who is this young lady? I thought to myself, this is troublesome. Back when I was in the depths of hell, calling her young lady had earned me her disdain. Now, hearing Zhang Yang address her that way, she would surely explode, and indeed, Mang Cece placed her hands on her hips, glaring at Zhang Yang, you're the young lady, your entire family is full of young ladies. Zhang Yang was left flustered and at a loss for words. I quickly intervened. Well, allow me to introduce, this is Miss Mang Cece of the Mang family. Hu Jintian stepped forward, clasping his hands in reverence. Is this esteemed lady one of the 4 great beast deities under the Bodhisattva Ksiddhagarbha? Indeed, it is I. Mang Cece replied proudly, hands on her hips. I observed Hu Jintian and several other celestial beings take 2 steps back. Bowing at a 90-degree angle, I am Hu Zhentian, accompanied by my subordinates, and we pay our respects to Senior Cece. My goodness, it seems Mang Cece truly possesses significant stature, even Hu Zhentian treats her with such courtesy. It appears I have stumbled upon a treasure this time. Please, no need for such formalities. I have come at the behest of the Bodhisattva to protect Zhou Yifan. Your matters are for you to resolve. I shall not intervene, Mang Cece declared imperiously to Hu Zhentian. This humble celestial would not dare impose upon the senior, Hu Zhentian responded, bowing deeply. Chapter 17, The Soul-Locking Formation of Malevolent Spirits. Hu Zhentian interrupted us. Let us conclude for today. You two can rest a bit longer. Tomorrow, we shall investigate the site of the blood coffin. With that, he transformed into a beam of white light and vanished from sight. A night passed without incident, and the following day, Zhang Yang and I visited Grandpa Bai's residence, where we described Lin Feng's situation to him. Grandpa Bai appeared incredulous, yet considering Lin Feng's sudden disappearance and lack of evidence, he did not press the matter further, merely stating that they would address it once Lin Feng was found, and arranged for us to be driven to the construction site where the incident occurred. The workers at the construction site led us to a deep pit exceeding 2 meters in depth, informing us that the blood coffin had been excavated from this very spot, before hastily departing. At that moment, Hu Zhentian and Mang Cece also revealed themselves. Hu Zhentian circled the pit, shaking his head as he remarked, "The blood coffin has been destroyed. This mere pit shows no signs of any issues." I turned to Mang Cece, who was tilting her head in contemplation. Choosing not to disturb her, instead, I inquired of Zhang Yang. "Yangzi, do you perceive any problems here?" Zhang Yang merely shrugged and shook his head. I pondered that since the King of the Earth had indicated that we would uncover the issue upon arrival, it must be true. We must have overlooked something. I meticulously scrutinized the pit, where faint traces of dried blood were still discernible along its edge. As I bent down to peer into the depths, Yangzi halted me with a hand. "Yifan, don't go down there, it's too perilous." I reassured Zhang Yang, "It's fine, nothing seems amiss from above, perhaps the key lies at the bottom of the pit." "Yifan, you might be onto something," Mang Cece suddenly interjected. "Cece Jia, what do you mean?" I queried. Mang Cece replied, "I recalled something, though I am uncertain of its relevance to this matter." Hu Zhentian approached, asking, "Senior Cece, are you alluding to the Yinling locking soul array?" Mang Cece seemed to have a revelation, stating, "Precisely, it is the Yinling locking soul array." Zhang Yang interjected, "Master Hu, what is the Yinling locking soul array? I've never heard of it before." Hu Zhentian explained, "The Yinling locking soul array is a nefarious formation comprised of 36 nodes, each serving as a small barrier. Only the soul of a pure Yin individual can unlock these barriers. However, that individual's spirit will become ensnared within the locking array until all 36 nodes are activated. I inquired of Hu Zhentian, "What happens when all nodes are activated?" Mang Cece took over. "What occurs upon complete activation remains a mystery. This formation has been lost since ancient times, and no one knows its true power or purpose." I exclaimed, "Lost since ancient times? Then what is this?" Gesturing towards the pit as I addressed Mang Cece. In my moment of urgency, I had forgotten Mang Cece's temperament, and as expected, she erupted in fury, shouting at me, "Zhou Yifan, do you wish to die?" Speaking to me in such a loud manner, I instantly subdued myself. Zhang Yang attempted to mediate. "Senior Cece, please do not be angry. Yifan was merely anxious." "Please be magnanimous." "Get lost," Mang Cece retorted, completely disregarding Zhang Yang. He muttered despondently, "Why does it seem to be a case of whoever speaks up gets the brunt of it? What did you say?" Mang Cece bellowed once more. Zhang Yang quickly laughed nervously, "And nothing at all. All right, dear aunt, let's swiftly attend to the matter at hand, shall we? What do you propose we do now?" I expressed my genuine displeasure. Since arriving in Jibei, I had yet to accomplish a single legitimate task. While I had already engaged in a fierce battle with spirits, narrowly escaping with my life, Mang Cece shot me a glare, stating, "How should I know? If all else fails, we could descend to take a look. It is said that each node of the Yinling locking soul array possesses a barrier. If the white light soul has vanished, and if this truly is the Yinling locking soul array, it indicates that this node has been activated. If the barrier is not above, then it must be beneath." "Very well, Sister Cece, let us descend together to take a look." It is truly vexing to have the persistent chatter of this python Cece, especially given her formidable strength. I cannot afford to confront her. Alas, why does the K'idagarbha Bodhisattva not send me a gentler companion? I swiftly dismissed this thought. If Cece were to discover my inner musings about her, it would surely lead to endless trouble. "If you perish, will you not become a malevolent spirit?" echoed Cece's voice in my mind. What does Cece mean by that?" I exclaimed in a flustered manner. "The Bodhisattva has tasked you with protecting me, not to bring about my demise." "Close your eyes," came Cece's voice before the sensation of weightlessness had even subsided. I promptly shut my eyes, feeling my body plummet in a freefall motion. I lost track of time until the speed of our descent suddenly diminished. Once our feet touched solid ground, I opened my eyes, and the vista before me left me in awe. Lush green trees shaded the surroundings, and the lake nearby shimmered with enchanting ripples, encircled by majestic mountains that rose in splendid layers, truly a paradise on earth. Noticing that Zhang Yang still kept his eyes shut, I tugged at him. "Yangzi, wake up. we've arrived. Zhang Yang finally opened his eyes, confusion mirroring my own. I queried Cece in my mind. Cece, is this within the barrier? Why is this place so breathtaking? My heart lightened as Cece manifested beside me. Indeed, this is within the barrier. As for why it appears thus, I cannot say. However, the soul of the white light is certainly here. Let us search. Chapter 18, The Enchantment of White Light. Search, in such a vast expanse, where shall we begin? I inquired. At that moment, Hu Jintian emerged, stating, there is but one blood coffin here, the barrier cannot be extensive. Let us split up, and we shall surely find it. I surveyed the surroundings. The distant mountains loomed heavily. This place could hardly be small. I lamented inwardly, reflecting on my unfortunate predicament. I had merely come for leisure. Yet now I found myself entangled in numerous events, forced into labor to seek someone. There is something amiss here, a force that can bewilder the very souls of men, Cece remarked. Nevertheless, I genuinely found this place rather pleasant. I replied to Cece, let us depart from here. With that, Cece took control of my body and led me towards the lakeside. Upon reaching the edge, I was astonished to discover that the lake's clarity was almost unbelievable. The water, dozens of meters deep, was crystal clear. The lake bed was adorned with pebbles of various hues, and a multitude of fish swam gracefully beneath the surface. Hu Jintian and Zhang Yang soon arrived. With Hu Jintian gazing at the lake in wonder, murmuring to himself, why does this place resemble the celestial realm of Miro? Indeed, it is Miro, Cece concurred. I had the fortune to visit there once with the Kayadagarba King Bodhisattva. It is identical to this location, the celestial realm. I queried in astonishment, isn't this merely a small barrier? How could it be the celestial realm? It is indeed a small barrier, but it has been fashioned to mirror the celestial realm of Miro. I cannot fathom the intent of the person who created this, Hu Jintian explained. Leave, I have no intention of departing. This place is too wonderful, free from worldly strife and deceit, a veritable utopia, contrary to our expectations. The white light was reluctant to depart. I glanced at Cece, who inquired, why do you look at me? My sole duty is to ensure your safety. Matters such as this are not for me to handle. I turned my head to glance at Zhang Yang and Hu Jintian. Hu Jintian remarked, this place is exceedingly strange. It must be bewitched by the mysterious forces that dwell here. I scoffed, you are the one who was bewitched. I willingly choose to remain here. Oh, I see now, you were the ones who prevented me from destroying my corporeal form. Bai Guang exclaimed excitedly at us, destroy your corporeal form? Why would you do that? Hu Jintian inquired of Bai Guang. Bai Guang looked at us and replied, if my physical body is not destroyed, the portal of the barrier cannot be sealed, and I will always be in danger of being discovered. Besides, it is my own body. Why should it concern you if I wish to destroy it? That insolent expression on Bai Guang's face infuriated me, and I felt an overwhelming urge to slap him. I retorted, the body and its features are gifts from our parents. Do you think you can simply destroy it at will? Do you have any idea how frantic your father has become because of you? You wretched scoundrel, my parents, that is merely an illusion of the mundane world after death. Who knows who will be who in the next life? Bai Guang shot back, glaring at me defiantly, which only fueled my anger. I thought to myself, damn it, if I don't teach you a lesson on behalf of your father, I shall not be called Zhou Yifan. I lunged forward and kicked Bai Guang, causing him to stagger. He pointed at my nose and cursed, what the hell are you? Why should you meddle in my father's affairs? Oh, I shall meddle today. I will obliterate this unfilial wretch on behalf of your father. I was perplexed by my sudden surge of anger, with only one thought echoing in my mind, to strike him out. As I moved into act, Zhang Yang grasped my arm. Yifan, what has come over you? I shouted at Zhang Yang, my face flushed with rage, don't hold me back, this wretch deserves a lesson. Because of him, my life was nearly forfeit, and now he dares to act so brazenly. Bai Guang, sensing my agitation, grew emboldened and shouted back, come on and fight me. I'm merely a shade. Can you truly harm me? A shade? Very well, if you are a shade, where are Zhang Yang's talismans? Hand them over. With that, I began to search Zhang Yang for the talismans. He shielded his monk's bag while dodging and urged, Yifan, don't be rash, let us think of another way. I had no patience left to wait for his plans and yanked at Zhang Yang's bag. Bai Guang, seeing my intent to find the talismans, quickly retreated several steps, hiding behind a tree, taunting me, come on if you dare. Hearing Bai Guang's taunts incensed me to the point of fury. Suddenly, a voice echoed in my mind. Deep and resonant, imbued with authority, which instantly sent a chill through my brain, calming my frayed emotions. I glanced at the serpent-like Cece beside me, feeling as though someone was speaking to me from within. I inwardly queried, who was speaking to me? Cece, noticing my abrupt calmness, inquired, Yifan, what is wrong with you? I responded, why is there another person within me? Cece looked at me in confusion, transforming into a green light as if to rush at me. But paused midway. I asked Sister Cece, what is the matter? I can no longer enter your body. Cece replied, perplexed, what is the situation? I inquired, it is unclear, a formidable force has sealed all your major orifices, rendering me unable to penetrate your defenses. At that moment, a voice from within my body resonated once more, you have just been corroded by the malevolent energy present here, which is why your emotions are in such turmoil. I have purged the malevolent energy and temporarily sealed all your major orifices, thus preventing that serpent spirit from possessing you. Who are you? I asked. I wish to assist you. Assist me, why would you help me? To assist you is to assist myself, for I am you, and you are me, therefore, I am also aiding my own existence. Damn, this fellow doesn't sound like a comedian, does he? A sudden thought crossed my mind. And I tentatively probed, are you the fragment of my divine consciousness from my previous life? Indeed. At that moment I comprehended why he claimed to be me and I am. He was a fragment of my divine consciousness from my past existence. Hence he was indeed me. How do you intend to aid me? Can you restore the white light's consciousness? Yes, simply lend me your body for a moment. Upon his words, I felt my control over my body slip away. And I slowly approached the white light, observing the unusual behavior. CC Chang Geng and Hu Tian rushed to intervene. I raised my hand to block them and said, there is no need for concern. I have my own methods. Their mouths fell agape in astonishment. Though perplexed, they complied, and did not follow. As I reached the white light, it regarded me warily and asked, what are you going to do? I extended my right hand towards the top of the white light's head. To my surprise, the white light stood motionless as if ensnared by a spell, allowing me to gently place my hand upon it. Benefactor, you have spent a century to attain this human form. How can you not cherish it? Now, under the influence of this malevolent energy, you have lost your consciousness. Allow me to expel this malevolence and restore your clarity. The last two words were pronounced with heightened intensity. After speaking, I forcefully slapped the top of the white light's head, feeling an invisible force surge from my palm into its body. The white light's form twisted unnaturally for a moment, and black blood began to seep from its 7 orifices. As the dark blood flowed forth, the vitality of the white light gradually diminished. Sic and Hu Tian observed me thoughtfully, yet refrained from. Although Dr. Zhang's voice was feeble, my keen ears still caught his words. I shot him a glare, prompting Dr. Zhang to turn and retreat into the house. Understanding my silent reprimand, Bai San Yi, evidently oblivious to what Dr. Zhang had said, excitedly addressed Zhang Yang. Then we shall rely on Master Zhang. The three of us proceeded to Bai Guang's room, where Bai Guang was still spinning on the floor, muttering incomprehensible phrases. Bai San Yi, witnessing Bai Guang's current state, let out a deep sigh. Alas, misfortune befalls our family. Misfortune indeed. I chuckled and replied, what is the matter? Can't I call you just because everything is fine? Su Jing interjected, are you here with me? Women's intuition can indeed be eerily accurate at times. I responded to Su Jing, yes, please send me your location on WeChat in a bit, and I'll come find you. I'll treat you to a sumptuous meal at noon. What? You're really coming? Wonderful, I'll send you the location right away, Su Jing exclaimed with excitement, and I felt a warm surge in my heart. Love can make one forget fatigue, and it can dissolve hatred. Love is undoubtedly the greatest and most heartwarming emotion in this world. Following Su Jing's directions, I arrived at her workplace and sent her a WeChat message. Darling, I've arrived. Before long, Su Jing, dressed in a white t-shirt and blue jeans, dashed out of the revolving door, and we embraced tightly. Seeing the faint redness around her eyes, I silently vowed, Su Jing, I will ensure you live a life that every woman envies. Chapter 20, Axe Mountain. Huang Sanqing. In the afternoon, Su Jing took a leave of absence to accompany me to the city's most renowned zoo. Upon encountering a golden python encased in glass, the python Cici began to berate in her mind, you humans are truly despicable, why not confine yourselves within glass enclosures? I consoled Cici internally, Sister Cici, these creatures are bred in captivity. Even if you released it, it wouldn't survive. Nonsense, Cici retorted. Any living species, through cultivation, can attain the body of an immortal. Even a blade of grass or a tree, given the right circumstances, could achieve the body of an immortal. If it weren't for your reckless hunting and deforestation, would there be so few immortals now? Sister, I fail to see the scarcity. Just Zhang Yang's family alone has 500 or 600 immortals. How can you claim it's few? I countered. Sic scoffed and replied, is that truly a significant number? Consider how many creatures with fur and horns exist in this world. These immortals are but a fraction. Not even 1/1,000,000th. I pondered this, but as I was accompanying Su Jing in the park, I had no desire to continue the debate with CC. Su Jing inquired, what were you doing in Jibei? I replied mysteriously, I said I went ghost hunting. Do you believe me? As Su Jing suddenly halted, staring at me in bewilderment. I asked, what is wrong, darling? Su Jing, with a serious expression, asked, tell me the truth, did you really go ghost hunting? After a moment of thought, I explained to Su Jing, well, a classmate from middle school has established a spirit releasing practice, and I went to Jibei with him to treat a wealthy merchant's son. Su Jing, with a peculiar look, responded, could that dream have been real? Upon hearing that there was more to the story, I promptly inquired, what dream? Su Jing hesitated for a moment before responding, the day before yesterday. I had a dream about Li Xiaoyu. She warned me that you were engaged in something perilous and urged me to advise you against it. Damn, not Li Xiaoyu again. Her presence is truly unsettling. I quickly asked, what else did she say? Su Jing chuckled at my anxious expression and replied, nothing much really. What is the matter? Are you thinking of Li Xiaoyu? Why do you seem so agitated at the mere mention of her? I adopted a serious demeanor and said to Su Jing, do you remember that incident I told you about back in college? The one where Li Xiaoyu was so terrified by Huang Sanqing? Seeing my serious expression, Su Jing ceased her teasing and said, I remember. At the time, I thought you were just scared. I replied earnestly, that incident was indeed true. Su Jing's eyes widened in surprise as she asked, Is it really? How do you know it's true? We found a secluded pavilion to sit down, and I recounted my recent experiences in Jibei in detail. As I narrated, Su Jing furrowed her brow at times and tightly grasped my hand at others. Once I finished, she leaned against my shoulder and remarked, I never imagined that there are indeed ghosts in this world. I nodded and replied, yes, I used to be a skeptic, but after my trip to Jibei, I am now utterly convinced. Su Jing seemed to ponder for a moment before asking, so you now possess not only a fragment of your previous life's consciousness but also a great python? It's a beautiful snake spirit, not just any python, I retorted. A voice from within whispered, what an unflattering term, python. I silently chastised, what is so unflattering about it? You are, after all, a massive python. Su Jing, noticing my momentary distraction, asked, What's wrong? I replied, it's nothing. The snake spirit is a bit displeased, claiming she is a beautiful snake spirit. Su Jing asked nervously, will she do anything to me? I gently patted her head and reassured her. No, this snake spirit is very kind and will not harm you. Another voice chimed in, at least you know how to flatter. I mentally scolded the snake spirit, sister, can you refrain from interrupting while I chat with my girlfriend? The snake spirit huffed and ceased her remarks. Su Jing tugged at my sleeve and said, there is a Huang Xian temple nearby that is said to be quite spiritual. My mother has not been well lately, and I would like to pay a visit. See, a university student from a prestigious institution has been unwittingly drawn into this affair. Su Jing hailed a cab, and after a series of twists and turns, we arrived at the foot of a small hill. After disembarking, Su Jing guided me along a dirt path leading up the hill, where a considerable number of people were traversing, indicating the temple's popularity. This small hill was not particularly high, and before long, we reached a modest temple. The entrance bore 3 gilded characters, Huang Xiantang. The temple was quite diminutive, consisting only of a doorless main room, inside of which stood a 3-meter-high statue of a weasel, presumably crafted from concrete. My companion Su Jing and I procured 3 incense sticks, each exceeding 1.5 meters in length and astonishingly thick, to the extent that they could not be grasped with both hands. After lighting the incense, Su Jing eagerly made her way to the nearby small temple to consult an elder priest for an oracle. As I gazed upon the imposing statue before me, a sense of familiarity washed over me, and I suddenly recalled Huang Sanqing, wondering how he fared these days. Su Jing soon bounded back, exclaiming that she had drawn an auspicious sign. The priest assured her that her mother would soon recover from her illness, and she had also requested a love fortune for both of us. Can you guess what he said? She teased. What did he say? I inquired. Su Jing, playfully pouting, replied, oh come on, you have to guess. Did he say I am unworthy of you? I jested. Su Jing laughed and said, oh dear, what are you guessing? He said that our bond spans several lifetimes and cannot be easily severed. Indeed, we are like golden boys and jade maidens, I thought, striking a classic pose reminiscent of the legendary Red Boy, which sent Su Jing into fits of laughter. Suddenly, I heard a voice in my heart. It was Huang Sanqing's. Little one, you've forgotten your brother Huang because of your new girlfriend, and that truly saddens me. I exclaimed internally. Huang Go, when did you arrive? It's not about when I arrived, rather, you have come to my home. Huang Sanqing replied, your home? Goodness, could this be the Axe Mountain he speaks of? I quickly asked Su Jing, what is this place called? She looked at me, puzzled, and said, it's Axe Mountain. Wait, Axe Mountain. Goodness, it dawned on me that I had indeed come to Huang Sanqing's hometown. As Su Jing and I walked down the mountain, I continued my mental conversation with Huang Sanqing. So, Huang Gu, you reside here? In his characteristic offbeat tone, he responded, indeed. What do you think of this place? I have quite the discerning eye, don't I? What is that in your heart? Suddenly, I realized I had forgotten to mention to Huang Gu that a large python resided within me. A shrill voice echoed in my mind, get out! You filthy rogue! The python named CC reacted as though its tail had been stepped on. What is going on, Ifan? Huang Sanqing inquired. I explained, this is my guardian spirit assigned to me by the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. CC, displeased, retorted, I am your protective celestial being, not some mere bodyguard. Why would you need another? Huang Sanqing, too, felt slighted. I understand you are his guardian spirit. Otherwise, how could you enter? Do you think I wish to serve as his guardian? It is the Bodhisattva's decree. Do you dare to object? Before I could respond, CC clarified the situation. I wondered if Huang Sanqing had been put out by CC's tone, as he begrudgingly remarked, alright, I won't dare to object. SIC shot back, if you won't, then find a place to stay away from me. Don't bother me here. Huang Sanqing, devoid of any irritation, replied, fine, I shall retreat to the heavenly orifice. Keeping my distance from you, very well, I will find my own place. You need not concern yourself with me any longer. After he spoke, he fell silent. That evening, Su Jing and I sought out one of the finest restaurants in their city. Indulging in a sumptuous feast, following our meal, we checked into a presidential suite at a 5-star hotel. Upon entering the room, heedless of Su Jing's peculiar gaze, I exclaimed, damn, the life of the affluent is truly exhilarating. Come on, darling, the following content has been harmonized by the author. Let your imagination run wild. Chapter 21. Zhang Yang. Boss Zhang. After spending 3 days with Su Jing, we reluctantly parted ways, as she still had her job to consider. It would not be right to impede her work, so I informed Su Jing that I had amassed quite a fortune, allowing her to forego the grueling demands of her job. Su Jing replied, "Your wealth is finite. After all, you have yet to secure employment. We cannot simply live off your savings. Once you have a job and a stable income, I shall come to you, and from then on, we shall never be separated." What a considerate young lady she is. Upon returning home, my mother inquired about my earnings. I replied, "Perhaps around 20 to 30,000." As I spoke, I pulled out 20,000 from my pocket and tossed it to her. My mother immediately grew anxious and asked, "Yifan, we must not engage in any illegal activities." I knew precisely what she was thinking. Fortunately, I refrained from disclosing the truth. Had she known the extent of my wealth, she might have fainted in shock. I explained that a friend had brought some goods to Jibei, and this money was not unearned, as I had assisted in unloading several trainloads of cargo. Only then did my mother feel reassured enough to accept the money, saying, "I shall keep this for you, to help you when you marry." During my days at home, I spent each day submitting resumes and searching for a job. However, it was indeed challenging for university graduates to find employment these days. My mother observed my despondency and wore a worried expression daily. It was at this juncture that I received a call from Zhang Yang. "Yifan, how are things? Your mother must be thrilled with your earnings," he inquired. I replied, "I wouldn't dare tell her. I only gave her 20,000, and she thinks I must have robbed a bank." Zhang Yang chuckled and said, "Well, you're not foolish. So what are you up to these days?" I sighed and responded, "I'm so idle I could grow hair." Busy indeed. I send out tens of thousands of resumes with not a whisper of response. Zhang Yang remarked, "Finding a job is tough for graduates now. Why not come work with me? Together, we would be an unstoppable force." I considered this. After all, I was now someone with celestial companions by my side. Although they did not heed my commands, I believed they would intervene should I face danger. I asked Zhang Yang, "What's the pay?" Zhang Yang replied, "Are you ambitious or not, always concerned about money? Haven't you profited from the Jibei venture? If there's more, share it. If there's less, then so be it. Can't I count on you, my friend?" Reflecting on this, I agreed. During dinner, I shared my intention to work in Yinshui with my parents. My mother directly asked about the salary. My father, however, was less mercenary and told me, "If you wish to go, then go. Staying home all the time is not ideal. Going out will help you gain experience, and working in the outside world will teach you to be more discerning." I assured him, "Rest assured, Zhang Yang will also be there." I dared not mention that I would be working at Zhang Yang's esteemed establishment, for I feared that my mother would bind me if she found out. My mother asked, "What kind of organization is it?" I casually mentioned the clinic, to which my mother responded with a soft "oh" before quietly beginning to pack my belongings. I couldn't help but admire my own talent effortlessly connecting the dots between the clinic and the divine store. After all, both pertained to healing. 2 days later, I found myself at the Buddhist shop run by Zhang Yang in Yinshui town. Zhang Yang, brimming with excitement, exclaimed, "You've arrived. This makes things so much easier for me. If it weren't for you during the last incident in Jibei, I doubt I would have managed to sort things out properly. I owe my gratitude to you and your sister Cece." After exchanging a few casual remarks, I inquired, "So, what shall I do now? Since I've come to work, I must adopt the mindset of an employee. Despite our friendship as classmates, I cannot afford to be complacent." Zhang Yang replied, "Take a couple of days to rest. We can enjoy ourselves here in Yinshui, and once you've resolved to pursue this path, I will teach you some charms and Taoist techniques." I was astonished and asked, "You know Taoist techniques?" Zhang Yang looked at me as if I were foolish and stated, "The way of the immortals is one and the same." I elongated my response with an "oh," indicating my understanding. I then queried, "What do you think the situation is with his daughter?" Zhang Yang shook his head. "It's hard to say. We'll go see her this afternoon. By the way, did he leave any deposit money?" "Deposit money? I have no idea. I don't think he left any," I replied, bewildered. Zhang Yang sighed. "You truly are something." "Let me explain. We need to eat, and everyone who comes to consult must first provide a deposit, or else we might as well be drinking the northwestern wind." "Alright, I wasn't aware of this rule. I'll keep it in mind for the future," I said to Zhang Yang. Chapter 22. Haunted by spirits. The morning was largely uneventful, with only 2 requests for Buddha statues. It was only today that I realized how incredibly profitable this business is. Car salesmen would likely feel ashamed in comparison. A statue of the medicine Buddha, which costs merely a few dozen yuan, was sold by Zhang Yang for a staggering price in the hundreds. This was an astronomical markup, and I scolded Zhang Yang for being a profiteer. He explained, "Don't think of these as mere statues. Each one has been consecrated by a high monk. What we offer is peace, and can peace be measured in monetary terms?" Well, I conceded defeat. At noon, Zhang Yang ordered takeout and requested 4 bottles of beer. I asked him, "Aren't you concerned about the tasks we have this afternoon? Is it wise to drink?" Zhang Yang replied, "Truth be told, I would rather not drink. But my patron from the Huang family enjoys his liquor, so this is a gesture of respect." I had heard tales of immortals who relished alcohol and tobacco, particularly the latter, which they referred to as immortal grass. However, Huang Sanqing had never directly asked me for cigarettes or alcohol. In my mind, I pondered, Huang Gu, would you care for a smoke or a drink? Huang Gu responded internally, I've quit. I questioned Huang Sanqing. Do immortals also fear strokes? He patiently explained, you should not wish for your Huang Ge's well-being to diminish. Which great being do you know that smokes a cigarette or carries a bottle of wine? Those who indulge excessively are often of lower cultivation. Those who ascend to higher realms have long since renounced such desires. Cravings are the greatest stumbling blocks on the path of cultivation. And many young immortals have faltered because of them. You should have expressed it this way so that I would understand. By the way, Huang Gu, what will happen to those brothers of yours down from Axe Mountain? I vaguely recall someone named Huang Xiaoxiao from my university days who claimed that Huang Sanqing was his superior, implying that Huang Sanqing must have some younger brothers. Do not concern yourself with them. Let them cultivate on the mountain for now. When the time is ripe, they can come and train alongside you. You have no idea how exhausting it is to bring them along. They are utterly inexperienced and act like country bumpkins. Finding everything novel, Huang Sanqing casually remarked to me, what nonsense is this? They are all following me. Does that mean I have to establish a sect as well? I excitedly replied to Huang Sanqing. Do not underestimate my ability to accept a friend who leads, but if I were to establish a sect myself, my parents would surely be mortified. You need not worry. We do not have a grand master of the sect. Nor do we possess any legal documentation, and no one is here to help us obtain such documentation. If fate allows, they will follow you. When the connection fades, we shall withdraw, Huang Sanqing said with utmost seriousness. Upon hearing the phrase about the end of fate, an indescribable feeling welled up within me, though it was certainly not joy. I muttered softly, I hope that fate never runs out. Do not be overly sentimental. I, Huang Gu, cannot bear this. Alright, go on with your business. I have just recovered from my injuries and need to rest more. After saying this, Huang Sanqing fell silent. In the afternoon, I accompanied Zhang to the address given by the elder brother. Upon knocking, the elder brother opened the door, and upon seeing me, he was on the verge of tears. I quickly reassured him, Elder brother, do not worry. We are here to resolve this matter. Chapter 23, The Gentle Breeze Captures Ghosts. At this moment, the 10 or so celestial beings brought by Zhang Yang concealed themselves, leaving only Zhang Yang and me on the desolate road, surrounded by a circle of yellow paper talismans. An eerie sight indeed. I inquired of Zhang Yang, will that malevolent spirit truly appear here? Zhang Yang, while gesturing with the talisman, calmly responded, my great-grandfather said that since the incident involving that girl occurred here, it indicates that the spirit must be lurking nearby. Coupled with this substitute talisman, we have a considerable chance of capturing it. Approximately half an hour passed when an abrupt chill swept through the circle formed by the talismans, causing the papers to rustle ominously. Zhang Yang called out, it's here, Yifan, seal the formation, this way, it cannot escape. In a hurry, I dashed over and affixed all the excess talismans I held to the gap in the formation. A chilling wail echoed within the formation. Who is it? Who has plotted against me? A vague figure materialized within the circle, appearing to be a hunched old man. Internally, I cursed, damn it, an old ghost preying on young girls. Noticing Zhang Yang observing the spectacle with his arms crossed, I leaned closer and asked, aren't we going to do something? Zhang Yang replied with a wry smile. Chapter 24, Zhang Yang's Hall. I was astonished to discover that Huang Sanqing's father is the head of the Huang family across the land. No wonder he always carries himself like a young master. As I noticed these two preparing to engage in familial banter, I hastily interjected, gentlemen, there will be plenty of opportunities for casual conversation later. Let us first focus on how Zhang Yang intends to handle this. Only then did they recall that there were pressing matters to attend to, and I thought to myself, their hearts are truly vast. Zhang Yang's great-grandfather addressed Huang Sanqing, saying, I have never heard of such a spell. Sanqing, do you possess any means of engaging with such incantations? Huang Sanqing replied, I too have heard my elders mention it. This form of sorcery has long been lost to time. The practitioner can cast their spell from 1,000 miles away, the process shrouded in secrecy and exceedingly peculiar, making it remarkably difficult to detect. I suggest we first send Zhang Yang's spirit to the Tangying, protected by the celestial seal, before seeking a resolution. I shall accompany you. I interjected, expressing my concern for Zhang Yang, as well as my curiosity about what the Tangying of the spirit medium entailed. After a moment of contemplation, Zhang Yang's great-grandfather instructed me, Sanqing, assist in separating Yifan's spirit from his body, and follow me. I will take Zhang Yang ahead. The others proceeded to lead the horse into the Tangying. As they spoke, several celestial beings reached towards Zhang Yang, extracting his spirit from his corporeal form. Huang Sanqing directed me to place Zhang Yang's physical body upon the bed and ensure that the Buddhist shop's rolling shutter was securely closed. He then lay down beside Zhang Yang. As I settled beside him, an unsettling thought crossed my mind, sending chills down my spine, and I whispered to myself, I am not a ghost, I am not a ghost. Huang Sanqing, oblivious to my thoughts, was about to take action when, without warning, Mang Sisi propelled me out of my physical body. Given Mang Sisi's disposition, had she been in 1970s Hong Kong, she would have certainly caused quite a stir. Chapter 25, The Soul Collection Talisman. Restless in the dead of night, an unsettling feeling lingered, as though I had neglected some pressing matter. I rose from my bed, paced twice around the room, and poured myself a glass of water, when suddenly I remembered the little girl tormented by malevolent spirits. Damn it, the Soul Collection Talisman, I exclaimed internally. Hastily, I called out to Huang Sanqing, Brother Huang, something feels amiss. We have yet to acquire the Soul Collection Talisman. How are we to help that little girl tomorrow? Huang Sanqing, growing impatient, replied. Yifan, I believe you may be losing your mind. It is the dead of night, and you are making a ruckus. That talisman is something I can draw. Why the fuss? Upon hearing Huang Sanqing's assurance that he could indeed draw it, I felt relieved and jested. Brother Huang, your northeast dialect is quite impressive. He shot back with a curt retort. Get lost, Mang Cici interjected. Can you even do this? Angle it to the left. No, the left, Zhang Yang responded. Then you do it, or keep your mouth shut, Mang Cici retorted. I won't draw such a rudimentary thing, Zhang Yang, slightly exasperated, said. If you can't do it, then just watch quietly. Otherwise, go do whatever else you need to do instead of causing trouble, Mang Cici declared. I may not be able to draw, but I can certainly observe. Look at you, you made yet another mistake. That's not how it's done. Hearing Zhang Yang's voice brought me comfort, for it was evident that Huang Sanqing had possessed Zhang Yang to draw the Soul Collection Talisman. Their playful banter was rather amusing, so I refrained from interrupting, curious to see who would emerge victorious in their verbal sparring. Huang Sanqing tossed down his brush, declaring, If you're so capable, then you do it. Mang Cici playfully slapped Huang Sanqing on the back, challenging him. Are you trying to compete with me? Shall we have a contest? Huang Sanqing sheepishly picked up the brush and remarked, A good man does not engage in banter with a woman. In my heart, I harbored a sense of indignation. How could this imposing figure, Huang Sanqing, allow a mere girl to bully him to such an extent? Chapter 26, Clues from the Underworld. As I had not ventured far, I soon heard someone calling out to me. Approaching from behind was a girl in her 20s, her visage somewhat familiar, yet I could not recall where I had encountered her before. Did you call me? I inquired. As she drew nearer, I sensed an almost imperceptible aura of gloom emanating from her, instilling within me an indescribable discomfort. The girl stood before me and spoke. What's wrong? Don't you recognize me? I scrutinized her intently, affirming that I did not know her. I shook my head, feeling a tad embarrassed, and replied, I apologize, but I truly cannot remember. Who are you? With a flick of her hair, she declared. I am Li Xiaoyun. When I visited my cousin at school, we even shared a meal together. You truly are one to forget easily. Upon her utterance, for realization washed over me. Was she not the cousin of Li Xiaoyu? During her visit to university, she had indeed accompanied Li Xiaoyu while we discussed the establishment of an animation club, and we had shared a meal. I was astonished by her remarkable memory. Had she not called out to me today, I might never have recalled her existence throughout my life. Oh, so you are Xiaoyun. I remember the last time we met, you had short hair resembling a tomboy. I chuckled while addressing her. That was ages ago. What brings you here? Li Xiaoyun inquired. I'm just accompanying a friend around. Nothing much. What about you? I responded. My mother mentioned she liked a piece of clothing last time, so I came to take a look. What do you do now? Li Xiaoyun asked. I am working part-time at a friend's Buddhist shop, I admitted, feeling a bit sheepish. Which shop? Please leave me the address, she requested. Chapter 27, The Third Encounter with Li Xiaoyu. Are you going to speak or not? Look at that expression of yours. Never mind, with that face, I doubt anything good could come out. I was engaged in a rather mundane conversation with Zhang Yang when I heard the shop door creak open, and I stepped out after straightening Zhang Yang's bedding. What a surprise to see you. The visitor was none other than Li Xiaoyu's cousin, Li Xiaoyun. I wondered to myself, had it only been a short while since we parted ways for her to seek me out, could it be that she had taken a liking to me? Alas, I am but a man with a girlfriend. Li Xiaoyun wandered around the shop before turning to me. What, am I not welcome? I must say, your friend's little shop has quite the charm. I smiled and replied, It's just passable, really, merely a haphazard endeavor. I felt a twinge of trepidation towards Li Xiaoyun, particularly since Huang Sanqing had mentioned that she too was a disciple of the supernatural. More importantly, the mere sight of her conjured memories of her cousin Li Xiaoyu. The psychological shadow that Li Xiaoyu had cast upon me over the years was profound. Even now, I occasionally found myself plagued by nightmares involving her. Li Xiaoyun perused the books on Zhang Yang's shelf casually and remarked, What's the matter? Am I so unwelcome that I am not even offered a drink? I quickly responded, Not at all. Not at all, you are most welcome. Please, have a seat. I have some exquisite Biluakun tea. As I invited Li Xiaoyun to sit, I busied myself with boiling water for tea. Li Xiaoyun made herself comfortable. Plopping down in the primary seat, I thought to myself, how remarkably familiar this girl is. I poured tea for Li Xiaoyun and inquired, Could it be that you require something so soon? Li Xiaoyun smiled and replied, No, I haven't found my mother's clothes yet. One day, I'll give her some money to buy them herself. Since I have some free time, I thought I would come by and see you. Is your mother still in good health? I asked, attempting to make conversation. Li Xiaoyun chuckled lightly and said, She's quite well. I've noticed that there's not much to discuss between us anymore, unlike when I saw you at your school last time. When you were quite chatty, I forced a smile and said, during that meal, Chapter 28, on the roof of Chang Geng after Li Xiaoyun left, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Previously, Li Xiaoyu had sent a dream to Su Jing urging her to thwart my plans in Jibei, and now she had revealed another significant piece of information. What could her true intentions be? Or rather, what objectives did the individuals behind her harbor? Huang Sanqing had gone to move troops, and I was uncertain of what Mang Sisi was preoccupied with. Thought I could inquire with Lu Qingyun. But Zhang Yang was Lu Qingyun's disciple, so I saw little hope there. Lu Qingyun would definitely not abandon this operation merely based on an outsider's words. After all, capturing a disciple was no easy feat. Having suffered so much, could they simply let it go? Momentarily, I felt overwhelmed, and my enthusiasm for managing the shop waned. You seem off. Is there something troubling you? Su Jing perhaps sensed something in my tone. I quickly adjusted my demeanor and assured her, it's nothing, I just miss you, and I'm relieved to know you're well. That's not right, Yifan, you must be concealing something from me. I guess that something within you is amiss. Or is it that snake? Su Jing asked anxiously. Hearing her concern warmed my heart, and my negative emotions seemed to dissipate significantly. Indeed, even if I lost everything, I still had Su Jing who loved me. I replied, stop speculating, truly nothing is wrong, they are all fine, just being honest. After a moment of silence, Su Jing said, Yifan, I plan to resign next month and come to be with you. What a shame to lose such a good job. Moreover, just the thought of still working for Zhang Yang at the temple makes it hard to continue, she added. Suddenly Su Jing raised her voice, asking, Yifan, would you be willing to support me, without a moment's hesitation? I responded, of course, I would. Then that settles it. I know you are currently working for a classmate, and as long as we strive together, we need not worry about a bright future, Su Jing exclaimed excitedly. If a girl is this direct, it would be unmanly of me to say anything else. Alright, I will wait for you, then it's decided. I'll be there at the beginning of next month. And remember, if anything happens, you must tell me, for we are a unit. After hanging up the phone, I felt a warm and vibrant sensation within me. With a beloved like her, what more could I ask for? Chapter 29, Huang Tang's leader, Huang Sanqing the possessed Zhang Yang approached me with a sly grin. Why are you wrapped up so tightly? I'm not going to assault you. You, step back. I futilely attempted to retreat. Pondering how this fellow could be so lewd, Zhang Yang took a couple of steps back with a mischievous grin, straightened up, and addressed me, saying, since you wish to know my identity, I shall reveal it to you. Listen closely, young one, I am none other than the esteemed Tianpeng Yuan Zhu Beiji. I felt an acute sense of inadequacy regarding my intellect. Was this not a tad far-fetched, Zhu Beiji, Tianpeng Yuan Vijing Tan Shizhe? Yet the individual before me bore an unmistakable contrast in demeanor and tone compared to the Zhu Beiji depicted on television, did he not? If he were to claim to be a monkey, I might entertain the notion. As I was lost in these thoughts, Zhang Yang, in a fit of exasperation, shouted at me, do you think you can utter my name so casually? Do you dare believe I won't sever your tongue? He advanced towards me, and I hurriedly sealed my lips in fear. Just as Zhang Yang's head was mere inches from mine, a large hand swung horizontally and struck him, causing his mouth to contort in surprise. A familiar voice resonated from behind Zhang Yang, little rascal, have you dared to rebel? You dare impersonate Grandpa Zhu? With that, Zhang Yang swiftly stepped aside, revealing the well-known figure of Huang Sanqing. I was momentarily bewildered. Casting a suspicious glance between the two, Zhang Yang, with a playful demeanor, sidled up to Huang Sanqing, saying, brother, I was merely teasing this little one. I didn't anticipate his cowardice. Huang Sanqing, with a grave expression, admonished Zhang Yang, listen here, young man, cease your incessant fabrications, consider this a warning. This is not Axe Mountain, where one can speak and act without consequence. You must temper your boastful tendencies. Should Grandpa Zhu catch wind of this, he will not hesitate to flay you alive. Chapter 30, The Mystical Connection. In the early afternoon, I locked the shop and engaged in discussions with Huang Sanqing and Chang Geng regarding the evening's journey into the realm of shadows. I had never properly traversed this realm. My previous experiences had been rather bewildering, as I had been inexplicably seized on 2 occasions, listening to Huang Sanqing and Chang Geng deliberate over the intricacies of this process. I found it to be quite cumbersome. I inquired of them, in my previous encounters with the underworld, was it equally as troublesome? Did they also require burning yellow paper and worshipping the city god? Upon hearing Chang Geng's explanation, I grasped that it was akin to hunting. One method is covert, purely for personal gain, capturing creatures solely for sustenance, indifferent to the fate of the prey, and untroubled by law enforcement, thus allowing for a ruthless approach. Before I realized, night had fallen, and Huang Sanqing had arranged for 50 members of the Huang family army to encircle the Buddhist shop, leaving no escape route. I questioned the necessity of such measures, to which Huang Sanqing replied that during our passage into the realm of shadows, our physical forms were particularly susceptible to malevolent spirits, necessitating absolute security for the shop. Chang Geng emerged from the inner room clad in a bright yellow Taoist robe, and I was momentarily taken aback, as he indeed exuded an air reminiscent of a Maoshan Taoist. I asked him, Master Chang Geng, To which generation of the Ma Shan lineage do you belong? It was only then that Chang Geng realized and responded. Taoists are divided into two main sects, Xuanzhen and Jingyi, with Ma Shan being merely a branch of the Jingyi sect. Had he not mentioned it, I would have assumed all Taoists worldwide belonged to Ma Shan. I further inquired, which sect do you identify with? Chang Geng pondered for a moment before replying, I share similarities with the Jingyi sect, as we both seek to eradicate evil and uphold the Tao, yet I do not belong to it, for I am a loose practitioner, effectively unaligned with any specific sect. Can you enlighten me on how you became acquainted with the beings in the heavenly realm? I inquired curiously of Chang Geng. With a gentle smile, Chang Geng replied, in due time, you shall come to know. For now, possessing too much knowledge may not serve your best interests. Internally, I cursed, why does everyone insist on playing the enigmatic card with me? It feels as though they are all privy to secrets while I am left in ignorance. Like a fool with blank eyes, utterly oblivious and embarrassed, I distanced myself from Chang Geng, realizing that conversing with him was a futile endeavor. He approached everything with an unwavering rigidity. As I continued on, we finally arrived before the ghost gate after traversing for over an hour. Before the gate stood dozens of fully armed ghost soldiers, lined up on either side. Upon witnessing our large contingent approach, they brandished their weapons, readying themselves for confrontation. From among the ranks of ghost soldiers emerged a towering figure, presumably their leader. This imposing ghost towered over 3 meters. With a robust physique, wielding a colossal axe, he bellowed at us, halt, take one more step, and I shall not hesitate to take you captive. With a wave of his hand, Lu Qingyun commanded the nearly 1,000-strong entourage to come to a standstill. He then advanced a step forward atop a magnificent golden python, clasping his hands in a gesture of respect, and proclaimed, we are the terrestrial immortals of the Yang realm, here to present our credentials to the heavenly court. At this juncture, I felt considerably more at ease under the protection of Python Sisi. Her agile movements and formidable strength rendered her nearly unstoppable, as any ghost soldier struck by her would seldom rise again. After exchanging a brief word with me, Python Sisi charged into the fray, targeting a specific area of the battlefield. From a distance I spotted Huang Xiaoxiao and Hu Tu encircled by ghost soldiers. Huang Xiaoxiao bore visible wounds, with flesh torn and blood gushing forth. Hu Tu fared somewhat better but was nonetheless disheveled and weary. Both were panting heavily, on the verge of collapse. Fortunately, Python Sisi arrived just in time. Transforming into her true form, her massive tail swept through the air, sending dust and debris flying. The ghost soldiers surrounding Huang Xiaoxiao and Hu Tu were sent sprawling by the force of her strike. Despite having dispatched several of the obstructing ghost soldiers, the immense city gate remained firmly shut, showing no signs of yielding. As our trio of combatants unleashed a barrage of magical attacks against the gate, it stood resolute as a mountain. Meanwhile, the ghost soldiers began to realize our intentions, and waves of them surged towards us. Although our celestial allies attempted to intercept them, the sheer number of ghost soldiers was overwhelming. As it appeared that our defenses would soon falter, a figure emerged from the ground before us. Upon closer inspection, I recognized it to be the esteemed Grey Buyu from the Grey family. He dusted himself off, gazed up at the imposing gate, and gestured for us to step aside. I observed as his lips moved, uttering a series of obscure and complex incantations. Python Sisi exclaimed in astonishment. Ancient language incantations? I inquired. What are ancient language incantations? M remarked. The Hui family possesses an extraordinary spell known as the transference technique. However, due to its ancient origins, the contemporary Hui family can only transport small objects. The ancient incantations for large-scale transference are said to have been lost to time. Who would have imagined that this esteemed elder from the Hui family could still wield such power? As we remained silent, reciting the incantation with graceful hand movements, the narrative shifted to chapter 33, the disappearance of Chang Geng. I inquired about the duration of our journey to the Sea of Suffering. Recalling that when we managed to break free, Huang Sanqing had mentioned gathering their responded that it would take at least a day's trek. In my ethereal state, I felt no hunger. It had been an eternity since I entered the underworld, where there is no distinction between day and night, rendering the duration of my stay utterly incalculable. After traversing for half a day, a scattering of ghostly flowers began to appear by the roadside, indicating that we were nearing the Sea of Suffering. Following a period of adjustment, Huang Xiaoxiao's spirits had notably improved, yet we were no longer brimming with the vigor we had upon entering the underworld. No one could have anticipated that we would be ambushed at the gates of the netherworld. Now, we appeared as if we were fleeing from disaster. M remained emotionally unperturbed. It was in her nature that as long as I was unharmed, the fate of others mattered little to her. Suddenly, a commotion erupted ahead, and the wandering souls on the path scattered to either side. A figure emerged, rushing toward us, pursued by 2 ghostly soldiers wielding long blades. As the figure drew near, we recognized it as a fox spirit under the command of Lu Qingyun, someone I had encountered within Lu's camp but whose name eluded me. Hu Tu leaped forward to rescue the fox spirit. Choking back tears, the fox spirit recounted, initially, we were evenly matched against them, but then a horde of thousands of corpse spirits emerged from unknown origins. These beings lacked intellect, evaded nothing, and felt no pain. Once the corpse spirits entered the fray, the tide of battle shifted dramatically. Both Master Lu and Master Huang faced the onslaught of the corpse spirits, with a few of slightly higher cultivation managing to breach the gates of the underworld. While the rest perished, I inhaled sharply, hastily inquiring, "Where are Master Lu and Master Huang?" The fox spirit pondered momentarily, then replied, "It seems they were subsequently sent away by a member of the Hui family. I cannot ascertain their exact destination." Upon hearing that Huang Sanqing and Lu Qingyun were safe, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Suddenly, a thought struck me, and I asked, "What of Chang Geng?" The fox spirit regarded me with suspicion. Chapter 34, The Resolve to Cultivate Ha Zhou Yifun. "You have ultimately embarked upon this path." A voice resonated from all directions, leaving us uncertain of the opponent's location. It was a formidable adversary, Lu Qingyun shouted, and even without his prompting, I, a mere novice, could discern the extraordinary prowess of our foe. "Who are you?" I demanded. "I have figured it out, since my university days. You have been targeting me. I know I am your objective. Do as you wish, but spare my friends. If you seek to kill or maim, then bring it on. I am prepared to face you." Perhaps it was Huang Xiaoxiao's influence, but having grown up without suffering, today I feel utterly devoid of worth, as if all of this were my doing. I am truly wronged, if given a choice. Who would wish to be entangled in such matters? Why would I seek to end your life? I have no desire to entangle myself in such troubles. I once cautioned you to steer clear of those horned creatures. Yet not only did you disregard my warning, but you also drew ever closer to them. I find myself at a loss. A tone of resignation permeated the air as I recalled how Li Xiaoyu had once advised me to maintain my distance from the horned beings. Could it be that the one in question is Li Xiaoyu's master? Are you that very master of Li Xiaoyu? I inquired with a hint of perplexity. It is not a matter of master and servant. She is merely someone I whimsically chose to save, a mere errand runner, if you will, akin to keeping a dog. The voice replied nonchalantly. Are you the Ghost Emperor? Lu Qingyun asked. Ha, the little snake fairy possesses keen insight. The other party readily acknowledged it. I turned to Lu Qingyun in confusion. Do you know the Ghost Emperor? Lu Qingyun fell silent, seemingly lost in thought. Mao Sisi addressed me. The Ghost Emperor is a being born of the great calamity during the end of the Dharma era. It is long spoken among Taoists that during this time, as gods and Buddhas perish, the Ghost Emperor emerges, with only the immortals daring to contend. It appears that the Ghost Emperor fears the manifestation of this legend. What does that have to do with me? I questioned Mao Sisi. Mao Sisi shook her head, indicating she did not know. The Ghost Emperor's voice, cold as ice, echoed back, a mere earth in hushed tones. I murmured, "If we're going out, let us go." Huang Sanqing leaned in closer and inquired, "What did you just say?" I didn't catch that. I shouted directly into Huang Sanqing's ear, "Let us go." Set up the altar. Huang Sanqing fiddled with his ear and asked, "Why the excitement? Is there really so much to be thrilled about?" He then turned and left. I thought to myself, what on earth am I excited about? Grabbing the blanket, I buried my head and continued to sleep. Thus, the temple of Buddha remained closed for an entire week, and I nestled in my cocoon for the same duration. During that time, Hu too often came by to chat when he had nothing else to do, but I felt a deep-seated unease around him, not for any particular reason, but simply because of that feminine demeanor of his, which was quite unbearable. After Huang Sanqing's initial conversation with me about setting up the altar, he vanished without a trace. Hu too mentioned he was off searching for more personnel, stating that those who set up altars usually have their celestial beings gathered with all their pillars and beams in place before capturing disciples and parading forth in resplendent attire to gain fame across the seas. Meanwhile, here I was, an utter contradiction, as I was the one tasked with capturing celestial beings. With the temple closed these past few days, I lacked the motivation to open it, persistently haunted by the events of my previous encounter with the underworld, my mind replaying Huang Xiaoxiao's furious gaze and her accusations against me. It wasn't until Su Jing's arrival that I emerged from my melancholic state. On that day, Su Jing appeared at the temple door, dragging along 2 large suitcases. In disbelief, I asked how she knew the temple's address. Su Jing revealed that a Huang Xian had sent her a dream indicating that I had suffered a setback and urging her to come keep me company. I was astonished. You actually believe that? Su Jing replied, "Well, I thought I'd give it a try," and to my surprise, it turned out to be true. I genuinely admired Su Jing's tenacity. She wasn't even afraid of getting lost and falling into the hands of nefarious individuals. I remarked, "You could have just called me, and I would have come to pick you up." Su Jing smiled and said, "I simply wanted to see if the dream was genuine. If it turned out to be false, I could still reach you in time." I hurriedly took Su Jing's suitcases inside. Chapter 36, Such heavy resentment after settling Hu Tsanghai. Celestial beings began to visit in succession, predominantly from the Hu and Huang families, with a few from the Mang and Lu clans as well. One individual arrived, accompanied by a contingent of a dozen or 20 followers, and within 3 days, we had managed to gather over 300 attendees. However, none were of the same caliber as Hu Tsanghai. They were merely lesser celestial beings, coming to greet me briefly, as if merely reporting in, before finding a place to recline. I wondered which family this tall figure belonged to. Surely, they wouldn't withhold that information from me. Fortunately, Huang Sanqing did not keep this matter from me. From the outer 5 elements celestial family, the Niu clan, The only celestial being I knew from the Niu clan was Niu Mo Wang. I chuckled and teased Huang Sanqing about it. Huang Sanqing silenced me with a gesture and warned, "Don't speak carelessly, too many words lead to misfortune. If trouble arises, we all must share the burden." I thought surely it can't be so serious that even names cannot be mentioned. Observing Huang Sanqing's cautious demeanor, I refrained from arguing further, and he suggested we simply wait. What are we lacking? I have the means to purchase it, I generously replied to Mang Sisi, who promptly mentioned the name, causing me to fall silent. Mang Sisi informed me, "We need the tears of the celestial dragon. You should go procure them." Alas, I am aware that the heavenly dragon is indeed a centipede, yet I have never heard of the heavenly dragon possessing the ability to weep. Sister Sisi, what on earth have you concocted? And why employ such peculiar ingredients? After a moment of contemplation, Mang Sisi replied, "It is a potion that can enhance your cultivation, a lesson imparted to me by the venerable elders of the mountains before I followed the Bodhisattva. I have never attempted it before, so I am uncertain of its efficacy." I nodded in understanding and inquired, "Is not the heavenly dragon merely a centipede? Can a centipede also shed tears?" Mang Sisi responded with an irritable tone, "Are you not chapter 37, to act or not to act?" I instructed Hu Tu to summon Huang Sanqing, indirectly demonstrating that I still held a degree of trust in him. Hu Tu, somewhat reluctant at my request, remarked, "Yifan, you cannot expect to rely on your brother Huang for everything. Does nothing get done without him?" I gazed at Hu Tu with exasperation. "Hu Jia, if you have any suggestions, please share. Let us refrain from engaging in futile endeavors, shall we?" Upon hearing me address him as Hu Jia, Hu Tu immediately retorted, "Who are you calling Hu Jia? I am a pure man, unadulterated." "Very well, Hu Go, what do we do if we do not send him off?" I find myself equally perplexed. Hu Tu replied, "This matter is challenging, yet if my ancestor were to intervene, handling this would be a mere trifle." After saying this, Hu Tu shot me a flirtatious glance, causing a tumultuous churn in my stomach. Had there not been someone standing beside us, I would surely have expelled my last meal. I responded tersely to Hu Tu, "Go call your ancestor then. Stop poking around here." Humph. Hu Tu huffed lightly and turned away. The man fixed his gaze upon me, awaiting my response, while Su Jing looked at me with eager anticipation. Unable to endure such penetrating stares, I addressed the man, "Very well, regarding your matter, I cannot guarantee its resolution, but I am willing to give it a try. Could you recount the events in detail?" Without any concealment, the man pondered briefly before replying, "All right, I shall explain." Thus, he began to narrate the ordeal he had faced. At this juncture, Su Jing turned and departed, for she found the disruption of others' families most repugnant. Chapter 38, Who is genuine and who is not? As evening approached, I searched high and low for Huang Sanqing, yet he was nowhere to be found. I learned that he had gone to welcome the Grand Master of the temple, leaving me somewhat bewildered. Why would one need to receive the Grand Master when he could simply appear in an instant? I have witnessed the swiftness of celestial beings, arriving from miles away in the blink of an eye. Hu Tsanghai inquired, "Are you in such a hurry to find Xiao Sanzi? Worried about my capabilities?" I quickly clarified, "Old sir, please do not misunderstand. I have simply grown accustomed to having brother Huang by my side since embarking on this path." To dispel Hu Tsanghai's misconceptions, I ceased my insistence on waiting for Huang Sanqing and followed him according to the address provided by Lu Kai. Hu Tsanghai conducted himself with notable flair, leading a contingent of over 10 members of the Hu family, 7 women and 3 men. The female celestial beings of the Hu family are indeed remarkable. Any one of them could easily grace the title of Miss Hong Kong. Upon receiving the address from Lu Kai, I was utterly speechless. It seemed that he was on the verge of residing in a temple. The only dilapidated shrine in Yunshui town is situated on the southwestern outskirts, long abandoned. Although this temple has fallen into neglect for many years and the monks have vanished to who knows where, it remains the sole place in Yunshui town for incense burning and prayer. Consequently, many devotees voluntarily offer their support, occasionally tidying up and cleansing the statues. Thus, despite its dereliction, the temple retains a semblance of cleanliness, and believers still visit to pay their respects. Lu Kai's abode is a small gatehouse adjacent to the main entrance of the temple. It appears that this structure was once used for selling incense and Buddhist paraphernalia. I mused about how terrified Lu Kai must be, having taken up residence next to the Bodhisattva. I knocked on the door, and upon seeing me, Lu Kai, with eyes red and puffy, embraced me as if I were his long-lost father. Instantly, the scent emanating from him assaulted my nostrils. It was a smell that could rival that of a person who hadn't bathed in a year. I quickly pushed him away. Upon entering the room, I was taken aback. Could anyone actually live here? The floor was strewn with piles of straw, and on the bed lay a rolled-up blanket alongside a few scattered garments. It was unfathomable to me that this was the dwelling of a psychologist. I inquired how he ended up living in such a place. Lu Kai explained that he originally did not reside here, but the ghost of Feng Chen incessantly troubled him. He thought that being close to the temple would deter the spirit, as ghosts typically fear the presence of sacred statues. I asked him if this strategy was effective. Lu Kai simply shook his head. Clearly it was not. I pondered to myself, how can Lu Kai have moved right beneath the Bodhisattva's feet, yet that ghost still dares to show itself? Hu Tsanghai responded, Why wouldn't it dare? It doesn't reside in the temple itself. I countered, that doesn't seem right. The ghost has ventured to the Bodhisattva's doorstep. Wouldn't the Bodhisattva intervene? I was indeed puzzled. Hu Tsanghai chuckled. Have you come to a realization? I replied, not at all. With a sigh of disappointment, Hu Tsanghai remarked, it's not that you haven't figured it out. Rather, you fear making an incorrect assumption. In truth, Buddhist teachings can guide both humans and spirits. Yet they emphasize karma, what you sow, you shall reap, but they seldom intervene in matters concerning karma. Upon reaching the Buddhist shop, Su Jing hurried over to inquire about the situation. I recounted the events to her, and she immediately became agitated, rolling up her sleeves and shedding her gentle demeanor, exclaiming in indignation, what are we waiting for? I shall confront her right now. I quickly embraced Su Jing, urging caution, we haven't clarified the matter yet. Don't act impulsively. Once old who has gathered the facts, there will be no need for you to intervene. Besides, even without Feng Qian's vengeful spirit, there are the police to contend with. Ask quickly, a minute is too long to wait. Su Jing shouted. I couldn't help but think that my girlfriend was indeed a pure and forthright woman, gentle in demeanor, yet resolute in action when challenges arose. Hu Tsanghai, not one to dawdle, began preparing for the task of summoning the ghostly messenger. I paid close attention, recognizing the importance of learning in my own spiritual journey. Hu Tsanghai produced yellow paper, a brush, and vermilion, inscribing several lines, Jinyuan Daxian's decree, commanding me to summon spirits, with the 3 pure ones as witnesses, hastened to ascend the cold abode. Upon observing his writing, which was crooked and unrefined, I found it utterly unbefitting of Hu Tsanghai's stature as a learned scholar. I jested with him, old man, with handwriting like this, can you truly summon the ghostly messengers? Hu Tsanghai offered me the brush, saying, why not you try? I quickly waved my hands in refusal, I have no skill in such matters. With a scoff, Hu Tsanghai turned around, continuing to write while remarking, are calendars pleasing to the eye and spendable as currency? I couldn't help but feel a bit awkward at his metaphor, managing a forced smile. Hu Tsanghai then said, Yifan, this talisman is not akin to calligraphy or painting. Practicality is paramount. If your art resembles that of a blooming flower but serves no purpose, then what good is it? I nodded eagerly. Indeed, old man, your wisdom is undeniable. After Hu Tsanghai completed the talisman, he inscribed a name on the yellow paper, designating it to the king of the 9 netherworlds, Yama. He lit incense, bowed his head, and burned the talisman to summon spirits. All that remained was to await the dispatch of ghostly messengers by the underworld's administrative body. Upon receiving the summoning talisman, one must commend the efficiency of the underworld's bureaucratic personnel. Before long, following a chilling breeze, 2 spectral figures appeared within the Buddhist shop, one clad in black, robust and imposing, with a stern brow and an aura of authority, holding a lengthy soul-binding chain. The other, dressed in white, appeared far more delicate, one hand grasping a white tablet, the other clutching a small ledger inscribed with the words Book of Life and Death hovering above it. Isn't this ledger supposed to reside in the Yama Hall? How could it be so casually produced? I contemplated inquiring but thought it prudent to restrain my curiosity in such a setting. This revelation confirmed my suspicions. Lu Kai had indeed fabricated a tale, and it seemed this matter was best left untouched. Individuals like Lu, lingering in the mortal realm, only serve as a calamity. Hu Tsanghai expressed his gratitude to the ghostly messengers. I yearned to inquire further about the underworld's affairs, but I was uncertain if these 2 spectral figures were affiliated with the Ghost Emperor. Any connection could spell trouble. The white-clad ghostly messenger, Feng Pian, noticed my hesitance and inquired, young mortal, do you have any further questions? His inquiry ignited my curiosity, and I asked, esteemed ghostly messenger, may I inquire if all is well in the underworld? Feng Pian regarded me with a quizzical expression. What particular aspects of the underworld do you refer to? I stumbled over my words, unsure how to articulate my thoughts. Feng Pian chuckled, are you inquiring about the Ghost Emperor? I was taken aback, regretting my question. Did Feng Pian know of my encounter at the gates of the underworld? Seeing my silence, Feng Pian continued, do not worry, young mortal. News of your ambush at the gates of the underworld has reached every corner of the realm. That day, the king of Yama intended to send troops to your aid, but refrained due to the Ghost Emperor's formidable powers. Now that the Ghost Emperor's whereabouts are unknown, the underworld has returned to its normal order. What? The entire underworld knows? I exclaimed in astonishment. Feng Pian nodded and remarked, although the underworld is not as tranquil as the heavenly court, throughout the millennia, the only ones who have stirred such a commotion here, apart from the great sage of yore, are you all this time. As he spoke, he respectfully clasped his hands towards the heavens, revealing his reverence for the Monkey King. I was utterly astonished. I had unwittingly engaged in an act akin to that of the illustrious Sun Wukong. I nodded in acknowledgement. However, upon reflection, this ghostly figure in white appeared rather amiable, primarily due to his well-chosen name, Feng Pian. I yearned to inform him that my name was Heidao, thus establishing a camaraderie between us. Su Jing, noticing our prolonged silence, approached to inquire about the outcome. I informed her that the ghostly envoy had arrived, confirming that Lu Kai was lying and that Feng Qian's words were indeed truthful. Su Jing grew anxious, insisting on taking a knife to deal with Lu Kai immediately, prompting me to soothe her. With tears in her eyes, she implored Yifan, "We absolutely cannot let that scoundrel off the hook." I gently patted her head, reassuring her to be at ease. Chapter 40. Niu Zhaotian. That night, Hu Canghai dispatched someone to Lu Kai's residence, retrieving the soul talisman that safeguarded Lu Kai's life. His fate was all but sealed, yet I felt no joy. Perhaps the complexities of human nature were beyond the comprehension of a fledgling like me. In the dead of night, Huang Sanqing roused me. And as I rubbed my weary eyes, I inquired about the matter. Huang Sanqing stated he was to introduce me to our sex grandmaster. It dawned on me then that Huang Sanqing had ventured out to assume the role of the grandmaster. I hurriedly extricated myself from bed and followed him into the main hall of the temple. Huang Sanqing's eyes widened in surprise. "Call him master, ha, master." His abrupt remarks left me bewildered. He continued, "Indeed, from now on, Master Niu will be your teacher." Without hesitation, I bowed 3 times before Niu Zhaotian, proclaiming, "Master, I pay my respects." Setting aside other considerations, given his imposing stature, striking appearance, and formidable name, I felt fortunate to have him as a mentor. Niu Zhaotian erupted into hearty laughter. "Ha ha ha, splendid. I accept this temple and this disciple of yours." He declared. "Let us choose a propitious day to commence our endeavors." I chuckled wryly, responding, "Master, it may not be feasible to act just yet." "Oh, what is the reason for that? Speak, disciple," Niu Zhaotian inquired, puzzled. I explained, "Currently Brother Huang has gathered only a little over 300 celestial beings. It seems the foundation is rather lacking." Niu Zhaotian burst into another round of hearty laughter. I was perplexed. What was so amusing about the inadequacy of numbers? Yet, I refrained from questioning further as Huang Sanqing interjected, "Yifan, I've already briefed the Grand Master on the situation. He has his own arrangements in place. You need not worry." Niu Zhaotian, accompanied by Hu Tu, proceeded to introduce himself to the celestial beings who had arrived earlier. With only Huang Sanqing and me remaining, I inquired, "Brother Huang, there are some matters I wish to discuss with you." Huang Sanqing looked at me sideways. "Why so formal? Speak your mind." "Brother Huang, we are brothers, and I know you would never deceive me, but why do I find this whole affair so enigmatic? Moreover, what is the origin of this old bull? Can't you take the mantle as the Grand Master? Must one truly seek the involvement of an outsider?" I conveyed my doubts to Huang Sanqing. He gazed at me with wide eyes. "Yifan, I didn't see you harboring such concerns when we bowed just now." I understood that Brother Huang wouldn't deceive me, yet given the circumstances, shouldn't you clarify things with your brother? I earnestly addressed Huang Sanqing. "Brother Huang," I called out to him. "Huh? What is it?" Brother Huang responded, momentarily interrupted by my inquiry. I asked him, "Brother Huang, there is something I have been unable to comprehend from the moment we began at my second uncle's house. You mentioned that we are fated to meet. Ever since the incident with Li Xiaoyu in college, you have been by my side. Could you enlighten me on the nature of our connection?" Huang Sanqing looked out the door and quietly replied, "How shall I put it? It's merely that you have some ties to your past life. However, such is the nature of celestial beings, we are genuine in our emotions, repaying enmities as well as kindnesses. This is why we may seem more foolish than humans, yet we cultivate ourselves better, for our thoughts are simple, devoid of the complexities that plague your kind." "Oh, so what kind of connection do we share from our previous lives?" I inquired further. Huang Sanqing chuckled and replied, "You are one to always dig deep into matters. It is not of great significance. During my previous life's cultivation, I lost my way, and you happened to pass by, feeling pity for me, and offered me a few words of guidance. That is all there is to it." I pondered the idea that I had once guided a celestial being. It seemed I must have been quite remarkable in my past life. So, who was I in that life? I seized the moment to ask the question that had long occupied my mind. "Alright," Huang Sanqing conceded, "you win this round." The following morning, Hu Tu roused me from my slumber. I inquired what was the matter. Hu Tu imparted an impression to me, revealing a scene of Lu Kai in his dilapidated room. His upper body on the bed while his legs lay on the floor, foaming at the mouth, his tongue extended unnaturally long, his eyes bulging, and visible marks around his neck. I questioned Hu Tu about the situation. He mysteriously replied, "Yesterday, I had the brothers retrieve the ghost-repelling talisman from Lu Kai. Early this morning, our ancestor urged me to investigate. Upon arrival, I was taken aback. This Fengqian acted swiftly and decisively. By the time I arrived, Lu Kai was already cold. A sense of unease washed over me, leaving me uncertain whether my actions had been right or wrong. Niu Zhaotian advised me not to overthink it, assuring me that with him around, I would no longer handle matters so recklessly. I chose not to mention this incident to Su Jing, fearing it would trouble her heart. Soon, Huang Sanqing informed me that we would be performing rituals in 3 days, and I should procure a red and yellow altar, preparing for the ceremony. Chapter 41. Su Jing's cousin. I shared my concerns with Su Jing, who reassured me that her cousin adored her and had an even greater fascination with the supernatural. If she were to discover that I am a deity, she would surely be overjoyed. This reminded me of my childhood, when I reveled in ghost stories and tales of divine manifestations, yet now I yearn to escape such affairs. Perhaps this is the irony of a different kind of encirclement. Those outside long to enter, while those within are desperate to break free. 2 days later, a long-haired beauty stood in the Buddhist shop, indeed. It was Su Menggran, Su Jing's cousin. Su Jing introduced us, but Su Menggran completely ignored me, fixating her gaze in one direction. Following her line of sight, I spotted Hu Tu sipping tea behind the boss's desk. Hu Tu, noticing the unusual situation, stood and approached me, while Su Menggran's eyes trailed him closely. As Hu Tu looked at Su Menggran, he waved his hand in front of her eyes and remarked to me, "Yifan, it seems this girl can see me. Call her beautiful. You are the real girl here." All feminine and prattling, Su Menggran responded. The moment she spoke, both Hu Tu and I instinctively took a step back. Astonished, this girl truly could see Hu Tuesday. We exchanged wide-eyed glances, while Su Jing looked at Su Menggran in confusion, asking, "Sister, what are you talking about?" Su Menggran, flipping her hair, replied to Su Jing, "Oh, I didn't expect my brother-in-law to be raising such a little fox." Hu Tu immediately retorted, "Who are you calling a little fox? I am an authentic Hu family immortal. Do you understand what that means?" Su Jing glanced at Hu Tu and pointed in a direction, saying, You are not as pleasant to look at as he is. Hu Tu and I turned to see Huang Sanqing grinning and watching the spectacle with his hands on his hips. Su Jing tugged on Su Menggran's arm, asking, "Sister, can you really see Yifan's immortals?" Su Menggran responded nonchalantly, "Of course, what is so surprising about that? I've had yin-yang eyes since I was little." "Sister, why have I never heard you mention this before?" Su Jing inquired. "I discovered it when I was about 6 or 7, I told the adults, but they didn't believe me, so I stopped mentioning it." Su Menggran explained, handing her luggage to me. "Are you really so oblivious? Don't you know to help your big sister with her bags? How can you expect to attract immortals like this?" I was taken aback. This sister-in-law was no ordinary person, starting off our meeting with such a display of authority. Su Jing pulled Su Menggran into the room, urging her to explain why she could see spirits. I stood there awkwardly holding Su Menggran's luggage, glancing at Hu Tu, who had vanished in an instant. Then I looked at Huang Sanqing, who yawned and muttered, "I'm tired, I'll find a place to sleep." Surveying the empty room, I realized I was utterly alone. What was going on? At noon, Su Jing and I took Su Menggran to the most upscale restaurant in Yinshui for a meal. I hadn't spent much since the last time Zhang Yang had treated me to a meal. Primarily because I was the kind of person who rarely remembered to spend money. Su Jing managed the Buddhist shop, which provided sufficient income for our daily lives. This time, it was mainly to leave a good impression on my sister-in-law. Mang Cici mentioned she was busy and didn't join us. When it came to ordering, Su Menggran showed no signs of hesitation, and the meal ended up costing me several thousand. Su Menggran asked, "Zhou Yifan, I heard from Su Jing that you are going to step forward." I cleared my throat, thinking to myself, why did Su Jing have to share everything? I was already troubled about stepping forward. And she was promoting it everywhere. I awkwardly replied, yes, it's unavoidable. Su Menggran smiled charmingly. "Don't worry, I'm not opposed to stepping forward." I thought to myself, of course, you've seen as many ghosts as I have. I asked Su Menggran, sister, "How did you come to possess your yin-yang eyes?" Su Menggran pondered for a moment. "I recall that when I was 6 years old the elderly neighbor passed away, and a mourning hall was set up at her doorstep. At that tender age, I was quite mischievous, and one night, taking advantage of the absence of adults, I sneaked into her mourning hall with some friends. In the center of the hall lay a transparent coffin, and my curiosity piqued. I clambered up to see what was inside. Beneath the coffin was a simple wooden frame, and as I pushed against it, it toppled over, causing the old lady's body to roll out. I found myself face to face with her. Her eyes were wide open, which terrified me to no end. Later, I received a sound thrashing from Su Jing's aunt. Ever since that incident, I have been able to see such things, yet no one believes me when I recount my experiences. He, who is Su Jing's aunt, I inquired of Su Menggran. Su Jing and Su Menggran exchanged a knowing glance and burst into laughter. Was my question truly so amusing? I looked at them in confusion. Su Jing, unable to contain her mirth, covered her mouth and informed me, "My aunt is simply her mother." Well then, I had been foolish once again. However, Su Menggran could have just said your mother instead of referring to her as Su Jing's aunt. I wanted to ask Su Menggran about this peculiar situation, but alas, ever since my master Niu Zhaotian arrived and gathered all the spirits together for reasons unknown, I have not been able to communicate with any spirits myself, and I could only wait for another opportunity to inquire further, when I called for the waiter to settle the bill. A young girl of about 18 or 19 entered, her complexion dull and lacking luster. What caught my attention was the elderly woman aged around 70 or 80, who was following closely behind her. Su Menggran also noticed the presence of the old lady, as she was fixated on the area behind the waiter. Su Jing whispered to us, asking what we were looking at, and Su Menggran replied that there was a ghost behind the waiter. Su Jing jumped up from her chair as if her tail had been stepped on, startling the waiter. I quickly pulled Su Jing back down into her seat. After the waiter left, Su Jing turned to me and said, "Yifan, what should we do? What should we do?" A sense of foreboding crept over me. Su Jing couldn't possibly expect me to intervene in this matter, could she? Sure enough, Su Jing insisted, "That little girl is being haunted by a ghost." How pitiful, you must help her. If Su Jing were to turn a blind eye, she would truly cease to be my girlfriend. I awkwardly responded to Su Jing, my home is still a chaotic mess. How can I take care of another situation when we know so little about it? Last time I bungled the affair with Lu Kai, and now you want me to meddle in someone else's troubles. Chapter 42, The Gathering in the Hall. In such a case, I was certain they would think I had lost my mind. Just as I was struggling to find the right words, the waiter returned. And the old lady behind her glared at me with evident anger. Goodness, did this old hag realize that I could see her? Su Mengran could also see her. Why was she directing her ire at me? I asked the waiter, Miss, has anything unusual happened recently? The waitress looked at me with wide eyes, perplexed, then glanced at Su Jing and Su Mengran before bluntly stating, Big brother, you're already seeing too. Are you still trying to chase after her? Am I chasing? I retorted, what nonsense, it's difficult to be a good person. They did not think of me as mentally unstable, rather, they considered me a rogue. Su Jing and Su Mengran were both stifling their laughter to the point of nearly losing their breath. I hurriedly explained, no, my dear, it's not as you think. I am a fortune teller, and I must say, your facial features do not bode well. May I inquire if you have encountered any peculiar occurrences recently? Upon hearing that I was a fortune teller, the waitress surprisingly took a step back, exclaiming, I certainly do not have the money for fortune telling. I was utterly speechless. Could we not engage in a proper conversation? Su Jing and Su Mengran could barely contain themselves, bursting into laughter. The waitress, now bewildered, glanced from one to the other, clearly at a loss. Su Jing, suppressing her giggles, addressed the waitress, young lady, he truly is a fortune teller. And quite accurate at that. You should let him take a look at you. What kind of dream? Can you remember it? I inquired. The waitress pondered for a moment, then replied, yes, I can remember. There's an old lady in my dreams who keeps searching for me and speaks some rather strange words. Sensing an opening, I quickly asked, what kind of strange words? The waitress hesitated, fumbling for words, and I eagerly leaned in to listen. After a prolonged moment, she finally managed to utter 4 words, I don't remember. Goodness, are you playing with me? I glanced at the elderly lady behind her, who let out a couple of low growls. I dared not disclose this situation to the young waitress, fearing it might frighten her. In truth, I was at a loss for what to do. I still had some talismans left, 4 in my left hand, those filthy charms left by Huang Xiaoxiao, but the events surrounding Lu Kai had cast a shadow over me. The true nature of right and wrong was far from the surface's simplicity. Eventually, I settled the bill and left the waitress a business card before departing. Upon returning to the temple, I found Niu Zhaotian, Huang Sanqing, Hutu Mang Sisi, and Hutu's ancestor, Hu Sanghai, all gathered in the main hall. As soon as I entered, their collective gazes turned toward me. I scanned them with my eyes and inquired, what is going on? Why is everyone here today? Has something happened? Niu Zhaotian cleared his throat and said, Yifan, I have some joyful news to share with you. Joyful news? I thought to myself, what could this possibly mean? Had Su Jing's mother consented to her marrying me, but surely she wouldn't discuss such matters with them. I cautiously asked, what is it? Niu Zhaotian glanced at me, then at the others, and replied, after several days of preparation, everything is ready for your outing. Next Wednesday is an auspicious day. We will set out and make our mark across the land. I was taken aback. Was that it? Had we secured enough people? I asked in confusion. Niu Zhaotian chuckled. Indeed, I've already contacted several reclusive immortals from the northeast. He elaborated, let me put it this way, our hall is like a spearhead. And even when lying down, it resembles a mountain. No other sect can rival us. I was taken aback. I thought only the Huang family boasted so grandly, but it seemed Niu's family was equally adept at grandiloquence. Lying down, indeed, meant being a corpse, yet I dared not voice this thought in their presence. Once the discussion concluded, the various immortals dispersed, leaving me with Huang Sanqing, as I had a few matters to clarify with him. With a cheerful demeanor, Huang Sanqing asked, what's the matter? Feeling anxious? Don't worry, your brother Huang will always stand by your side. I hesitated, placing a hand on Huang's shoulder, and replied, I am aware of your sentiments. Huang Gu, however, I can't shake off this nagging feeling of unease. By the way, wasn't it said that one requires a decree from the heavenly court before embarking on such ventures? Have we completed all the necessary procedures? Huang Sanqing replied, about that matter rest assured, there are influential figures behind old Niu. The formalities were finalized just a few days ago. Now we are merely awaiting the day of the ceremony, when the documents will be burned. And the heavenly court will bestow upon us the ceremonial flags and grand seal. Only then will our enterprise officially commence. Huang Sanqing spoke the truth. Wherever one goes, the essence of plants remains. I shall speak of this once I have achieved some measure of success. Huang Sanqing waved his hand dismissively. Enough of your overthinking. The Master Niu has assigned me certain tasks that remain unfulfilled. We shall converse further when time permits. After Huang Sanqing departed, I searched high and low for Mang Sisi, but to no avail. It had been quite a while since she had lost her temper. And to be honest, I rather missed her outbursts. Am I not being rather foolish? Chapter 43, The Dream of Hatred. I cast a glance at the Ghost Emperor, and to my dismay, I realized it was too late. At that moment, the Ghost Emperor was glaring at Su Jing and me. Su Jing was oblivious to his presence as she breathlessly approached me. Yifun, what brought you here? I reached out, intending to shield Su Jing behind me. Just as my hand was about to touch her, a large hand preemptively seized Su Jing by the neck, lifting her effortlessly. A chilling laughter echoed around us, a sound I recognized all too well. It was the Ghost Emperor. At this point, Su Jing had already been dragged close to him. In a frenzy, I hurled the 4 stinky bombs I held towards the Ghost Emperor. He extended his other hand and effortlessly caught the bombs, crushing them with a single squeeze. Damn you, Ghost Emperor, if you're capable, confront me directly. What skill is it to seize a woman? I shouted, my voice filled with anguish. The Ghost Emperor regarded me with disdain. Do you not possess shards of divine consciousness? Why not summon them to confront me? Indeed, how could I have forgotten? I mentally called out, but received no response. Trouble indeed. My shards of divine consciousness must still be recovering. The Ghost Emperor's voice rang out once more. What's the matter? Unable to summon them? He laughed heartily. I shall delight in watching your beloved perish before your eyes, reveling in your suffering. Su Jing struggled futilely in the Ghost Emperor's grip, her neck ensnared, rendering her voiceless. As I gazed into her eyes, filled with despair, my heart shattered. Curse you, Ghost Emperor. What enmity exists between us? This has nothing to do with Su Jing. Release her. Do with me as you will. At that moment, I felt my sanity teetering on the brink, my eyes aflame with pain. I wiped them, only to find blood seeping forth. The Ghost Emperor cackled, falling silent for a moment only to twist one of Su Jing's arms, causing blood to spurt forth in torrents. My heart felt as though it were being mercilessly hammered, thudding relentlessly. Please, no, just kill me instead. The searing pain in my heart has become unbearable, rendering me unable to stand. Clutching my chest, I writhe on the ground, helplessly watching as the Ghost Emperor tortures Su Jing bit by bit. The rhythmic thumping echoes within my heart. My mind feels as though 1,000 individuals are racing through it. The cacophony intensifies, and my surroundings blur into obscurity. Just as my consciousness teeters on the brink of oblivion, the colossal hammer suddenly halts, and the tumult within my mind comes to a standstill. I sense a wave of energy coursing through my body, bringing with it an extraordinary sense of relief wherever it flows, albeit for just a fleeting few seconds. All discomfort dissipates, and an inexplicable surge of strength wells up within me. Akin to a dormant volcano on the verge of eruption, I cast a cold, piercing gaze at the Ghost Emperor, who continues to torment Su Jing. Ghost Emperor, today I shall obliterate you with a swift motion. I elevate my foot and traverse the ocean of suffering to stand beside him. The Ghost Emperor's expression transforms into one of incredulity. How? Hatred has extinguished any desire for explanation within me. Only one thought remains, tear him apart and avenge Su Jing. My right hand clenches into a fist as I leap high, preparing to strike the Ghost Emperor, yet he and Su Jing have vanished, replaced by a profound black void. Unable to halt my momentum, I plunge headlong into the abyss. The sensation of weightlessness envelopes me. Startled, I bolt upright from my bed, wiping the sweat from my forehead, my pillow drenched in tears. Suddenly Su Jing crosses my mind, and I hastily rise, making my way to her room. Upon entering, I immediately sense something amiss. My body feels inexplicably light, as if devoid of weight. I have no time to ponder the peculiarities occurring within me as I rush into Su Jing's chamber. Meridians? What meridians? I am somewhat bewildered by the cryptic utterance of Mang Sisi. Remember when I told you I would concoct a potion to enhance your cultivation? I've succeeded, and I've already administered it to you. Otherwise, how could there be spiritual energy within your body? Mang Sisi explains. Who are you relying on? Are you asking for a beating? Upon hearing Mang Sisi's words, my heart tightens, realizing that she has indeed taken action against me. I quickly respond, sister, my apologies, I was merely caught up in the moment. Where did you acquire the Tianlong? Old Neo brought it. He caught it at our hall yesterday and made it cry. Didn't he? Mang Sisi boasts proudly. A wave of disbelief washes over me. Is that even possible? Yet, I cannot help but admire old Neo's prowess. The path of grass immortals is notoriously arduous, and it seems unlikely that there are many capable of achieving remarkable feats. Yet, old Neo has managed to procure one. It is said that the cultivation methods of grass immortals are mysterious. However, the fact that Mang Sisi was able to subdue and make it cry suggests that its cultivation level cannot be all that impressive. Stop overthinking. It's not a single one, but a pair, suddenly remarked Mang Sisi to me. Chapter 44. The Wandering Souls Untended. Mang Sisi informed me that old Neo had summoned thousands of people from various mountains, without mentioning Hu, Huang, Chang, Mang, and Hui families. Every individual among them held significant weight within their clan. Moreover, there were also several hundred celestial beings from the external 5 elements, ranging from the formidable wolf immortal and badger immortal to the diminutive insect immortal and ant-immortal. I felt a chill run down my spine. This was no celestial hall but rather a veritable animal kingdom. Mang Sisi lamented the absence of celestial beings from the underworld. Our adversaries resided there. Having gathered a host of young immortals. In a true confrontation, we would find ourselves at a disadvantage. In the morning, I briefly shared a meal with Su Jing and her sister, after which they set out for a shopping excursion. With nothing to occupy my time, I took the opportunity to tidy up the Buddhist shop. Hu2 was pacing restlessly in the room, and I inquired, "Are you at leisure? Everyone else is busy. What are you doing wandering around?" With a tone of lament, Hu2 replied, "Last night, our ancestor brought a young lady, she is simply enchanting. Isn't it true that you prefer men?" I teased Hu2. "I am entirely masculine," he insisted. "Brother, if you are indeed entirely masculine, could you refrain from flaunting those delicate fingers of yours?" The sight of Hu2's hands, more feminine than a woman's, was unbearable. Hu2 flicked his wrist dismissively. "I intend to pursue her. Ha, I think that would be splendid, it might enhance your masculine aura," I jested. Hu2 shot me a sidelong glance, preparing to depart with an annoyed huff. I quickly called out to him, "Hu2, may I ask you something?" He halted and asked, "What is it? Speak quickly, I need to find Ling Mei. I wanted to inquire whether our celestial beings could investigate a matter for me." Despite our not yet having set out, I recalled the little waitress from the restaurant. Since I had promised Su Jing to assist her, it was imperative that we sought the celestial beings' help. Hu2 explained, "We are different from other halls. Establishing a hall is merely a matter of obtaining legal documentation. Investigations and tasks are unrelated to the establishment of a hall. What matter do you wish to inquire about?" "Excuse me, are you two off to procure goods?" I muttered as I observed the multitude of clothes and shoes in the hands of Su Jing and Su Mengran. "What is the meaning of all this in a Buddhist shop?" Su Jing asked if I had consulted the celestial beings about the waitress, to which I replied that I had already sought their assistance, while the sisters and I were engaged in idle chatter. The door of the Buddhist shop swung open, and a middle-aged man entered. Is Master Zhang Yang present? He inquired upon entering. "Master Zhang is unwell, please convey your message to me," I replied, ushering him into the room. Upon hearing that Zhang Yang was ill, the man displayed a look of hesitation and murmured softly, "Even the great deity falls ill." I smiled and reassured him, "It is merely a cold, deities are human too. While they may treat hysteria, they are not immune to genuine ailments." The man sighed and said, "Well, my wife has fallen ill. We have visited several hospitals without uncovering any clear diagnosis. A friend of mine suggested consulting Master Zhang, who is reputedly skilled in treating such ailments. Thus, I wish to invite Master Zhang to take a look." "Why didn't you bring your beloved wife along?" I inquired. The man scratched his head and replied, "I merely came to inquire first. Isn't Master Zhang capable of divination?" I pondered silently, realizing he harbored doubts about our profession and was testing us. I inwardly called for Hu2, but despite several attempts, he did not appear. While Hu2 was absent, Huang Sanqing did manage to arrive, leaving me puzzled. "Brother Huang, what brings you here? Where is Hu2?" Huang Sanqing wearily responded, "Didn't that fellow send you to investigate the restaurant staff?" I was taken aback. Hu2 was quite efficient, having dispatched himself so promptly. Wasn't he meant to be courting the little fox spirit? "Brother Huang, is it not sufficient to merely glance at it?" I remarked. In the past, we always had to venture into the fray to resolve matters, and today Huang Sanqing's swift conclusion left me astonished. Had his abilities seen a recent enhancement? No need to investigate. He carries the aura of wandering spirits. It seems this has been ongoing for some time. You should inquire where the couple has recently traveled, Huang Sanqing elucidated. I relayed Huang Sanqing's inquiry to the man. "Is there a connection?" I asked Huang Sanqing. After a moment's silence, he replied, "Indeed, Yunk Ridge was once a burial ground, home to numerous wandering souls and restless spirits, but that cannot be, Brother Huang. If it is indeed so malevolent, why have we not heard of incidents before?" I countered. "I knew of Yunk Ridge. While the mountain is not particularly high, its paths are perilous, attracting many outdoor enthusiasts for hiking and camping. The absence of incidents in the past was due to a group of celestial beings keeping watch. They dared not stir trouble. Now that the celestials have departed, the spirits have become unruly and unchecked, which naturally leads to harm," Huang Sanqing explained. "What happened to the celestials? Why have they all departed?" I probed. The celestial beings have been summoned to our temple by old Neo," he replied. I was taken aback, realizing I was entangled in this matter. "What should we do?" I urgently asked Huang Sanqing. For this predicament was deeply connected to my duty. Huang Sanqing nonchalantly suggested, "Have him bring his wife along, and let old Neo's people handle it. That should resolve the issue." After the man departed, I queried Huang Sanqing, "Brother Huang, are we only saving his family? What about those on the mountain?" Chapter 45. The bewildered Hu2. After a couple of hours, the man returned accompanied by a woman, but they were not alone. I noticed two wandering spirits trailing behind her. The pair strode in with an air of arrogance, clearly dismissing my presence as an uninitiated apprentice. "Who permitted you to follow them in?" I shouted at the audacious spirits. To my surprise, they appeared unfazed, causing the couple to jump back in alarm, caught between retreating or advancing. I quickly clarified, "My good sirs, I was not addressing you. Please step inside." The elder brother cast a puzzled glance around, supporting his wife as they ventured further inside. Frustratingly, the two wandering spirits trailed closely behind them. "Damn it, are you two really trying to provoke me?" I retrieved a talisman meant to ward off spirits and waved it toward the two specters. "Come here, let us see if I can send you both packing." The two spirits halted at last, though they exhibited no signs of genuine fear. The couple regarded me with eyes wide open. As if I were a madman, I quickly altered my demeanor, addressing them, brother, sister, no worries, I wasn't referring to you. The sister was followed closely by the two spirits. The elder brother's expression shifted to one of skepticism. Is it true, O master, that there are indeed wandering spirits? His question left me somewhat speechless. If he didn't believe, why had he come to me? Yet, I could not voice such thoughts, so I reassured them, no need to worry. Now that you're here, you were safe. Inside, I felt anxious. It was about time Huang Sanqing made an appearance, yet despite my silent calls, there was no response. Perhaps he was preoccupied elsewhere, ever since Lao Niu arrived. He seemed overwhelmed and no longer the same, unable to emerge and chat with me as he used to, and now, he was like a dragon seen only in glimpses. Thankfully, the two spirits remained relatively docile. After I brandished the talisman of soul extraction, although they did not flee, they stood aside, silent and compliant. I couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. You two alone, even your ancestors might be in my hall. Could you possibly turn the tide? The elder brother, observing my animated demeanor, assumed I had devised a clever plan and inquired, Master, have you found a way to help my wife? I casually replied, these are mere trifles. Let me first assess the situation. The man pushed the woman toward me. From the moment she entered, I noticed she was hunched over, her head bowed low. As she approached, I had the opportunity to scrutinize her closely. The woman appeared to be in her 30s. Her figure bent, and she bore a mask that could easily obscure half her face. I gestured for her to remove the mask, but she shook her head vigorously. In a fit of impatience, the man yanked off her mask, exclaiming, what are you so afraid of at a time like this? The moment the mask fell away, I was taken aback. Her sunken eyes were surrounded by skin of a deep purple hue, and her lips were a striking crimson. Her gaze flitted about as if she were reluctant to remain in this environment. In that critical moment, I recalled who Tuesday I called out to him in my mind. And unexpectedly, his voice resonated within me. Brother, could you let someone rest a bit? I've been running around all day dealing with that waitress. I felt a surge of irritation. Enough with the excuses. If I had a solution, I wouldn't be calling you. Just tell me, is there any hope for this woman? Hu Tu appeared beside me in an instant, his demeanor weary as he glanced at me and then at the sister across from us. Is it her? I affirmed, yes, it is indeed her. Why do I feel like she could expire at any moment? Your instinct is correct. She is on the brink of death, Hu Tu remarked nonchalantly. Her vital energy has been nearly depleted. She can barely hold on for 3 more days at most. I felt a surge of anger at his flippant response. Hu Tu, can you focus on something serious for once? I did not come to you seeking solutions, but rather to affirm your assertions of very well. Let me express it this way. Without the prowess of Lao Niu, resolving this matter would indeed prove to be a formidable challenge. Hu Tu, with a serious demeanor, addressed me, and I understood that his words were not mere empty rhetoric. It appears that only Lao Niu can intervene. However, I truly have no idea how to locate him. Ever since Lao Niu's arrival, it has been akin to the arrival of a celebrity. He can reach out to me at any moment, yet I find it exceedingly difficult to contact him. Typically, Huang Sanqing serves as my intermediary, yet now he seems to have vanished. Tentatively, I inquired of Hu Tu, do you know where Lao Niu is? Hu Tu, with his round eyes, replied, of course, what of it? What else could there be? Hurry and summon him to resolve this issue. I realized then that Hu Tu's name was indeed aptly chosen. He seemed to embody the essence of a fool. Regarding this matter, it appears Hu Tu finally comprehended my intent. However, before I could feel any relief, his next statement drove me to the brink of insanity. But I cannot go, he declared matter-of-factly. What does that mean? Has the world turned upside down? Hu Tu, what do you mean? I questioned him, my anger boiling over. Such a trivial matter requires the intervention of the master. Surely you jest. Hu Tu, with an expression of discomfort, replied, did you not say that only someone of Lao Niu's caliber could resolve this? Who else should I seek? I found myself screaming inwardly, cursing Hu Tu for his seemingly deliberate obstinacy. This is surely a curse from the heavens. Hu Tu, with an innocent face, explained, this woman's lifespan has already dwindled significantly. To prolong her life, one must possess the profound abilities of Lao Niu. Otherwise, if we merely chase away those two wandering spirits, any adept from the establishment could accomplish that. I was at a loss for words. The absurdity of his statement leaving me both amused and exasperated. Did I ask you to prolong her life? I managed to suppress my frustration and said to Hu Tu, brother Hu, I simply wish to heal her and banish those two spirits. We can address other matters later, alright? Please tell me who can accomplish this. Hu Tu pondered seriously. It must be Lao Niu. I was utterly exasperated by his persistence. My elder brother, observing my silence and bewilderment, felt uneasy as well. Master, what shall we do? Can anyone cure my wife's ailment? Yes, but do not rush me. I am currently communicating with the spirits, I responded. Upon hearing this, my elder brother immediately stood respectfully to the side. Unaware of the ridiculous predicament I found myself in. To merely capture these two entities, I could achieve that in a heartbeat, but they have already formed a ghostly bond, which signifies that they are part of a larger team. Confronting them will invite even more spirits, creating a significant hassle. Upon hearing Hu Tu's explanation, I felt a sense of relief. Rest assured, all of his ghostly companions with some skill are within our establishment. You may proceed without hesitation, knowing that puts my mind at ease. Now, watch closely. Chapter 46. One wave subsides, another surges forth with determination. Who too commenced his task, demonstrating no hesitation whatsoever. In a matter of moments, he bound the two wandering spirits with great skill, and they no longer exhibited the arrogance they had upon entry, bowing their heads in submission. Great Immortal, please spare us. We are left with no choice. No choice, and yet you emerge to wreak havoc upon the living. Are you not afraid of transgressing the heavenly laws? After Hu Tu inquired, he extended his delicate jade-like fingers to touch the two wandering souls, which sent a chill down my spine. The two souls, trembling in fear, recounted the events that had transpired upon hearing them mention that the ghosts of the underworld had ventured to Yunwu Ridge. I sensed that something was amiss. Ever since my escape from the underworld, an inexplicable dread had taken root within me, as though any disturbance in the nether realm signaled a plot against my life. This matter should be reported to the master. We ought to discern his intentions. Hu Tu suggested to me. Reluctantly, I agreed. Hu Tu grasped my sleeve as if I were a mere chick, and with a sudden leap, we soared into the air. The speed was so tremendous that my surroundings became a blur. I attempted to signal Hu Tu to slow down, but no sound could escape my lips. After approximately a minute, Hu Tu gradually decelerated. Although in my spectral form I was spared the nausea that often accompanies rapid movement, I still found myself retching involuntarily at the moment we halted. Really, Hu Tu, could you not fly any slower? I complained. Hu Tu cast me a disdainful glance and languidly replied, this is still considered fast, carrying a living soul like you. It has taken this long. Not if it were just me, a mere 1,000 miles would be traversed in the blink of an eye. What, 1,000 miles? Have we truly traveled 1,000 miles? Does this mean we have crossed the Shanhaiguan? I exclaimed in astonishment. Hu Tu rolled his eyes and retorted, Ifan, could you please engage your mind? We are immortals, do not measure distances with your earthly standards. Is this not the mortal realm? Have we ventured into the underworld again? My question, perhaps a tad naive, earned me Hu Tu's disregard. He pointed ahead, saying, look, that is where the master currently conducts his affairs. Following the direction of Hu Tu's finger, I beheld a magnificent pavilion gleaming with gold and jade not far from us. Internally, I couldn't help but curse. This old bull truly knew how to indulge himself. Having barely settled into his role before constructing such a grand palace, I felt an urge to voice my grievances, but Hu Tu, sensing my discontent, hastily advised, when you meet the master, mind your words, do not let every thought escape your lips. We immortals are not human, and our tempers can be quite unpredictable. Do not say I did not warn you. The old bull's temperament is rather poor. I cast a begrudging glance at Hu Tu, who was preening his fingers like a delicate flower, and chose to remain silent, noticing my lack of response. Hu Tu ceased his commentary and gestured toward the palace entrance, signaling me to enter. Panic surged within me. Wait, you aren't coming in with me. The master has not summoned me. How could I dare enter? Do not worry, your brother Huang is inside as well, Hu Tu reassured me before suddenly transforming into a beam of white light and vanishing from sight. The mere mention of Huang being inside provided me with a modicum of confidence, for he had saved my life on numerous occasions. In my subconscious, I had already come to regard him as family. Straightening my attire, I stepped toward the grand entrance of the palace. Flanking the doors were 2 rows of celestial guards. Yet upon seeing me, they extended the utmost courtesy. With a sense of reverence, I felt a twinge of embarrassment. 2 members of the Huang family led me to the grand entrance of a majestic hall, bowing slightly as they addressed me. Dima, the master has been waiting for you inside for quite some time. Our ranks do not permit us to accompany you further. Having spoken, they both performed a respectful gesture before turning to depart. Once the 2 Huang family members had receded into the distance, I cast my gaze upon the imposing crimson doors before me. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside. Upon entering the hall, I was struck by the sheer enormity of the space. It was indeed excessive, as if it were not constructed for mere mortals. The hall soared to a height of over 15 meters, spacious enough to rival half a football field. At the far end, seated regally upon a grand redwood chair, was the esteemed master Niu Zhaotian. At that moment Niu Zhaotian appeared to tower at around 10 meters in height, his robust physique a stark contrast to the first time I had encountered him. I thought to myself, this old bull is exceedingly formidable. No wonder Hu Tu quaked at the mere mention of him, terrified to utter even a sound. Lost in my contemplation, a flash of yellow light caught my attention, and Huang Sanqing materialized beside me. I realized I had a penchant for the whimsical demeanor that Huang Sanqing exuded. Taking a step forward, I offered a respectful bow. Ifan pays his respects to the great master. Enough of this formality. From henceforth, we are indeed one family. Having pledged to serve as the great master of the Zhou family's Xiantang, I shall dedicate myself wholeheartedly. Ifan, I have heard from Hu Tu that you seek my counsel? Came Niu Zhaotian's resonant voice. Indeed, I recounted the tale of Yunwu Ridge's unfortunate occupation by the ghostly beings of the underworld, embellishing the narrative as I went. Yet, Niu Zhaotian's expression remained stoic, responding only with a calm acknowledgement. Understood that the wandering souls on Yunwu Ridge face a dire fate. Their annihilation will prove beneficial to the living nearby. However, I wished to elaborate further, but the old bull raised a hand to silence me.